Well, welcome in, everybody. What is happening? And shout out to everybody that is here already. I see I have a couple of super chats already lurking there from some regulars. Many thanks to you guys. We'll get into those, of course. And shout out to those that are here for the NFL, for a little NFL discourse or discussion. I know primarily I'm doing NBA stuff and talking about basketball, but I do love me some NFL. I love this time of year when the NFL playoffs ignite into the wild card. I think this weekend is probably like the best weekend of the entire NFL playoffs. So I was eager to get on here, just to talk about it, talk some shit about football. I've got Gary, the moderator, aka Gaslighter. Gary is on with me. Gary, shout out to you, brother. What's up?
Yes, sir. Just looking forward to the NFL playoffs and wanted to do a live stream and talk about it.
So Gary's a big football fan as well. Gary and I talk often throughout the year about, well, different things, but we talk a lot about the NFL and various topics and trends that are taking hold of the league. And of course, like I said, the playoffs are finally upon us. I don't really like some of these matchups. I don't really agree with some of them. In fact, before we get underway, we're just going to attack these kind of game by game. We're going to go in order. Gary and I would discuss them, maybe give a little pick, each of us. Perhaps we'll pick off against each other. So we'll begin with the Rams-Panthers game. That is the first game. It is 4:30 p.m. On Fox this Saturday, so tomorrow. And then the final game, I'm not really a big fan of these Monday night playoff games, but they've been doing it for a couple of years now. The final game of the slate, Monday, January 12th, 8:15 in Pittsburgh, Texans-Steelers. So that will be the last game we discuss. We'll begin in a moment here with Rams-Panthers. But before we do, Gary, I just want to get something off of my chest. I absolutely hate the fact that there are several teams this weekend with lesser records that are hosting home games. It is the Lord's year of 2026. It's time that we get into the competitions committee in the offseason and revamp this foolishness. Three teams that have lesser records. The most egregious and appalling of all actually is the first game. So I guess we can just kind of get underway with it. Look, the time is here and now to change this rule. If you win your division, I'm still okay with it getting you in and getting you like a ticket into the bracket, into the playoff field. But you should not automatically be hosting a home game if you just simply win a shitty division. You shouldn't be rewarded for going through a garbage division and then a team that was in a much more difficult division that had a much more difficult schedule than you had to play through that. And their reward for getting into the playoffs and combating that more challenging division is you got to go on the road now to some trash fraud team. Like I said, there are three teams that fall under that purview this weekend. That would be this game. We're going to start with the Panthers, which is, again, the most glaring and egregious example of it. But the Pittsburgh Steelers should not be at home. And in my estimation, the Philadelphia Eagles should be going to San Francisco. And that absolutely will decide that game. Now, we'll talk about that more when we get to that game, because several might push back and say, well, the Eagles did pull starters in that last week. If they went for it against Washington, they likely would have had the same record as the Niners. Well, how about this? How about you had to go for it then? How about rather than the Eagles getting a de facto bye week, because they didn't have to play at all, and the Niners had to go play it to the bone against a very difficult Seattle team. They've already dealt with a litany of injuries. The Niners are the most injury-affected team in the entire NFL. They had to go get more banged up against Seattle, trying to play themselves into the 1 seed. They lost. They're 12-5 now. The Eagles pull all their starters, rest everybody. They're 11-6, and they just get to host the Niners. I think if that game were in San Fran, I don't want to give any spoilers of who I'm picking. I think the Niners would have won that game if it were in San Francisco. Not so certain about it now that it's in Philadelphia. But again, we'll get to that game when we get to that game. Let's start, Gary, though, first with this Rams-Panthers game, which, again, is a crime against humanity, if you ask me. The 8-9 Carolina Panthers. Let me say that one more time. 8-9. They're under 500. And yet they are hosting the 12-5 Rams, who are in a division with the aforementioned 49ers and the number 1 seeded Seattle Seahawks. Seattle 13 wins, Rams 12 wins, Niners 12 wins. Again, the Rams reward for getting through that division with 12 wins and they have the hardest strength of victory of any team in the postseason bracket right now. They get to go on the road to a team that won 8 games and are under 500. Gary, I'm fired up about this. It's complete and utter bullshit, if you ask me.
I agree, but silver lining here. This actually is a reward for the Rams because they have one of the easiest playoff matchups in the first round you could ask for. Carolina, we were thinking they may have contended for the #1 draft pick. The first month of the year, they looked to be like they may have been the absolute worst in the entire NFL. The second half of the season, they turned it on. But this is a rout. The Rams, this is a joke. Honestly, the Rams probably aren't complaining. They're probably like, hey, if you told us at the beginning of the year that in the first round of playoffs, we get to go to Carolina for the first round, sign me up for that. Because this is almost like, hey, Seattle got the first round bye. Well, I think the Rams got a first round bye as well.
Well, you make a lot of sense here, Gary. We're obviously aligned. We're both taking the Rams in this game. They are by far the biggest favor of the entire week, even though they are on the road. So we got a home dog in Carolina, and they're getting a huge amount of points. If you want to take the Rams in a, of course, legal betting capacity, you'll be laying 10.5. So you would be giving the home team a 10.5 point line to start if you want to take the Rams. But I think that would definitely that's what my suggestion would be if I were a betting guy, or if I were, trying to give you guys any kind of advice. I would lay those 10.5. I think it's going to be worse than that. The Panthers actually did beat the Rams though this year in some kind of it was like a crazy high scoring shootout. I think the Rams are going to be back, more focused, dialed in. I think they're going to absolutely destroy the Carolina Panthers. But Gary, I would say this. I think the Rams would have rather preferred it that they got the 1 seed. It looked like they were going to be the 1 seed for the last couple of weeks. I think, to me, look, 3 weeks ago, just to talk about the Rams real quick, and we don't have to spend too much time on this game because this is the worst game of the week. It's the first game. They just kind of shuffled it away. No one's going to be watching at 4:30 p.m. on a Saturday. Let's just dump that crappy garbage game in that time slot because it's just going to be a massacre. But the Rams, again, roughly 3 weeks ago, gun to my head, who's going to win the Super Bowl? I would have said the Rams. They're the best, most complete team. They have an elite defense. They have, I thought at the time, the league MVP, Matt Stafford. It's a tight, contentious MVP race right now, still between Stafford and Drake May. Stafford has an opportunity still to win that MVP. But again, if I were a betting man, he is the favorite. I think Drake May might win it. I think 3 weeks ago, though, Matt Stafford was trending towards a slam dunk MVP. So he would have been, this guy, Stafford, is going to finish top 7 in NFL history in touchdowns and yards. If you threw on the MVP this year that I thought he easily would have had if you asked me 3 weeks ago, and the first round bye, which I thought they were going to get, and they had the best team, I thought they would go on and win the Super Bowl, which I believe is in San Francisco this year. Well, now we're talking about Matt Stafford. A lot of people are going to have to readjust their all-time rankings, I think, if you're talking about a top 10 guy in touchdowns and yards with a league MVP and 2 Super Bowls now. But all of that is murky because the Rams absolutely crapped themselves in a fantastic Sunday night game against Seattle. The Rams had Seattle dead to rights. Gary, did you see this game?
Yeah, that crazy comeback, right?
It was 31-14 with 8 minutes to go in the fourth, and the Rams leading. And Seattle drove the length of the field, and Darnold got picked on like the 3-yard line, and the game was over. It was over. But Seattle held the Rams to a 3-and-out, punted. It was a punt return touchdown, 2-point conversion. They get the stop on the other end. Come back down, score, go into overtime. Stafford hits what looked to be the game-winning touchdown in overtime then after the Rams blew that lead. The Rams come all the way back in overtime, only to have Seattle get the ball back after the Stafford touchdown, drive the length of the field, score the go-ahead touchdown, then go for the 2 and the walk-off win and get it. It was one of the worst wins, or one of the worst losses, I should say, I've ever seen for the Rams. It cost them essentially the 1 seed, so they would have home field throughout right now and wouldn't even be playing this week. But you're right. That was just a long-winded kind of rebuttal, I guess, to the fact that they have the closest thing to a first round bye without having a first round bye. Right. But in my estimation, they really let one go, because I think the Rams would have been my easy pick to win the Super Bowl this year had they secured that 1 seed. Now it's very cloudy. I think we talked off air before we hopped on, and we will we'll progress and make our picks and see who we like for the Super Bowl this year, who our champion will be. I think the Rams would have been. Now I'm not so certain about that because they lost that game, and then they followed it up with another bad loss before winning their final game of the season. But Seattle, when they beat the Niners, they clinched the number 1 seed. So Seattle is the team that will be sitting out and watching the rest of the action this week, Gary. So suffice to say, Gary, you obviously have the Rams in this game.
But the Rams were without Devontae Adams in those games. He's going to be back, and if he's healthy throughout, their offense goes up another level, and that's what I think the difference is.
Totally agree, and I like the Rams easily in this game. So, we'll play it forward after we talk about these games and see how far we might like them to go moving forward. But the next game on the slate, which will be also tomorrow on, it looks like an Amazon Prime game. So this seems to be a standalone game on Prime. So if you do not have Prime, you're going to have to, I don't know, call your providers or go online or whatever and sign up for like a free month trial or something if you want to see this next game, which is Packers at Bears and Green Bay. Look, this is another, we just talked about a road favorite. This is another road favorite, albeit a much slimmer one than the last game we just talked about. Green Bay at Chicago, -1.5 for Green Bay. These are two, obviously, of the originals. This is a storied, heralded, all-time kind of a rivalry game, though they do not typically match up very frequently in the NFL playoffs. They will this week. They will tomorrow at 8 p.m. Gary, the Bears really 11-6, but they weren't killing teams this year. They have really close to an even net differential. So they're barely winning all of these games, but they're 11-6. They get the home game against the Packers, who earlier in the year I thought looked like they were going to be one of the teams to beat in the NFC. They kind of limp into the playoffs now to take on the Bears in this divisional playoff showdown. What do you think about this one, Gary?
First of all, I just wanted to preface these picks by saying something. This is the weirdest bracket I've ever seen in the NFL playoffs. I'm sorry. Maybe, I don't know if this is a hot take. Maybe a lot of people agree with me. I don't know. But this, to me, is the weakest crop of division winners I've ever seen. And dare I say, I think that the wild card teams, most of them are better than the actual division winners. And
you're not talking that crazy, Gary. I want to see exactly. People that know me and know my NBA shtick know that I talk often about net differential in the NBA. My close friends, like my fantasy football league, they always mock and ridicule me about talking about net differential in the NFL. They say it really doesn't matter. I beg to differ. I think it is still a great indicator of success moving forward into the postseason. And the Bears are, I think, literally around even. They're plus 26, which isn't. It's just not good, Gary. For some perspective, the Rams are plus 172 this year, and the best team in the league, Seattle, is plus 190, and New England's plus 170. So plus 26. It ain't that good. Detroit, who didn't even make the playoffs, they finished last in the Bears division, were plus 68. So it's pretty significantly higher than the Bears plus 26, who end up winning the division. They certainly were the cardiac Bears. They had a bunch of late game comebacks and so forth. And, kudos, tip of the hat to them. They managed to get it done. They got a lot of lucky breaks. They were actually playing Green Bay a few weeks ago in a game that realistically would have determined who was going to win that division. I thought the Packers would have won that game, except for the fact that Jordan Love got knocked out early in that game. I think the first quarter. So the Packers had their backup quarterback in for like 3/4 of the game, and yet they still went into overtime in that game, and they were leading the whole game, even with their backup in for 3/4. It took a last second Caleb Williams touchdown pass to get them into overtime, and then they won the game in overtime. So the Bears, to me, there are many fraud teams out there this year, Gary, I think, lurking in these NFL playoffs, to your point. And I think the Bears, honestly, are one of them. I may be going down with the ship on this one. Maybe the Bears, maybe I haven't been giving them their due credit all year because they barely win all these games. We'll see, I guess, this week. But I kind of like the Packers to go in there and win that game on the road.
I have the Packers as well, even though they've underperformed as well, because when they got Micah, we were like, okay, this is like the NFC Championship game against Philly for the Super Bowl. And we even think they might even edge Philly out and get to the Super Bowl. But they've had a litany of injuries. But I've just got to say, I think props to Chicago, much improved from last year, but they're still not a legitimate threat in the playoffs. I don't think. I mean, I'm sorry, this is Caleb's first game. I do think Caleb is obviously way better in his second year than year one, but he's still not this year. He's not ready to advance to go far in the playoffs. I don't believe he's too inexperienced. And dare I say, I think Caleb is a little too arrogant for his own good. I don't think he's as coachable as a coach would like. So I think a lot of times when Ben's going off on him, he shrugs it off. I just don't think the Bears are going to succeed in this playoff run. I think obviously what are the Bears notorious for? Underwhelming performances in the playoffs. I think we're going to add another one to the collection. I think the Packers edged them out for the upset, I guess. Like I said, I just don't like any of these division winners. You know who the best team is in that division? The Lions. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care about the record of the Lions. If the Lions were in the playoffs right now, playing the Packers or the Bears, I would take the Lions.
No, I agree. The Lions it was a rough year. They lost their entire coaching staff other than Dan Campbell. The offensive coordinator they installed didn't really work out. I believe they fired him a few days ago. Ultimately, Dan Campbell did take over the play calling duties midway through the season, and they just had a hellacious schedule this year. And in addition to that, just like last year, got a ton of injuries, and particularly in the secondary. So their defense really struggled. I think this was just like a perfect storm of ass against Detroit this season. I agree full-heartedly. I think the Lions are the best team in that division. And realistically, there's not many teams in the NFL playoffs that I would have picked against the Lions, albeit the Lions aren't a great road team. Jared Goff historically doesn't play that well outside away from the dome, and they would be going probably through like cold weather cities now into the playoffs. So I think next year Detroit will regroup. I think they're going to have another good year next year, hopefully get a high seed line, and then they'll have to bring people into their dome. Gary, the next game that we would be talking about, we agree on the first two. I guess we're both taking the Rams. We're both taking the Pack. The next game, I'd really like to dig into that one. It's a very juicy game. It might, to me, be the best game of the entire weekend, dare I say. It's the Bills-Jaguars. It's on at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Before we get into the game, though, because it's going to be I think a longer discussion on that one. I see some super chats here, primarily John O'Ratcliffe. The Reg has been blowing us up. So let's just touch on a couple of these super chats.
Let's go ahead.
And we'll go in order. Model Body Fit. Dylan, run to the chopper. What is up, brother? Shout out to you in Miami. Still got that flex on. Looking good and tanned. And spritzered up there. What does Model Body Fit have for us, Gary?
My main man, Skap. Hope you good, bro. Down to business. May is having the best sophomore season in NFL history. Argue with me. Hashtag Lamar's trash. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. Best second-year players. I mean, recently we've seen a bunch of sophomore slumps. Like I remember C.J. Stroud had like a really studly rookie year and then was middling and mediocre in year two. Jayden Daniels, I struggle to say he's been mediocre. Like he's been hurt a lot of this season. So I hate to just say that he's been bad, but quite frankly, he hasn't been good. And he might have had the best rookie season ever, did Jayden Daniels. I personally would say Kurt Warner, though. I don't think it technically wasn't his rookie season that year 28 for him when he played for the Rams, won the MVP, won the Super Bowl. I think he was a rookie like when he was like 21 or 22 technically and busted out of the NFL. But that was Warner's first real year in the league. But that's an interesting question, whether Drake May is the best second year. Look, if he wins the league MVP and does anything of note in the postseason, they're the 2 seed. They'll be playing this week. They were fighting for that 1 seed seemingly all season long. They were positioned for it. The Broncos came on as well, and Denver ends up getting the 1. I believe they had the same record, but by virtue of, I think it was conference opponent, or maybe it was similar opponent was the first level of tiebreak. But whatever it was, Denver becomes the 1 and the Patriots are the 2. But if Drake May gets the league MVP this year, you can certainly start building a case that it might be the best sophomore season ever. And if he does anything in the postseason, that would really bolster that case. As for your last point here, you're going to get no pushback on me on this one because, damn it, hashtag Lamar is trash. I've been beating this drum and ringing this bell since this guy entered the NFL. I've seen nothing to impress me ever since. I get a lot of pushback for my Lamar hate. It's one of my stronger takes. You know, many people that know me and my brand know that I vehemently dislike LeBron James. To me, Lamar Jackson and Mike Tomlin, we'll get into Tomlin later on here when we talk about the Steelers game against Houston on Monday night. But those are some of my stronger takes that I put right next to my LeBron take, the ones that I will be dying on a hill of, that can etch into my tombstone. Lamar Jackson is trash. He played, look, the stat line looked good in that game against Pittsburgh because he hit 3 touchdown passes. All 3 were lucky and flukish. The one, though, I will give him credit for, where he evades the 2 defensive players that collided on him, and he stepped through them and made a good throw. And there's still a player in the secondary on Zay Flowers on that throw by Lamar. The other 2 throws were total just easy. I could have made those throws. I could have either made the throws for those other 2 touchdowns or caught those passes and ran in for those 2 touchdowns. That's how absurdly wide open those guys were. A complete and utter blown coverage, blown assignment by the Steelers secondary, laughable. If you look other than those 3 flukish throws that resulted in like 150 yards and 3 touchdowns, Lamar was like 8 of 15 for 80 yards and an interception. Like those were his numbers removing those touchdowns. So kudos for having a good looking stat line in that game that ended the season for Lamar. But I will stand on it. Whatever you want to say about that game, this guy he'll be 29 soon. He has 2, at least 1 undeserved league MVP in my estimation. You can make a case he should have had the other one. And he has 3 total playoff wins, 3 and 5 in the postseason, and something like 13 total touchdowns in 8 games, counting rushing and throwing, and 11 turnovers, counting fumbles lost and interceptions. The guy's mediocre at best. If you remove his athleticism, he's a complete bum. I don't even think he's a starter in the NFL. So sorry to go on that little tirade, but I didn't do it actually. I usually, every year that Tomlin or Lamar loses, I usually make my obligatory Lamar Tomlin is a bum, Lamar or Tomlin is a bum video. I didn't do it yet. I'm still waiting on a Tomlin video. It will be coming, trust me, whenever it is that they lose. But yes, I did not do anything on Lamar. So sorry, guys. I needed to take a quick step back here and just do a little Lamar rant. So I apologize for that. Let's get though, Gary, I'm sorry. Did you want to add something to my Lamar rant?
I just want to say real quick, this is another example of how the media can just gaslight the audience and the masses, because I think Lamar is good, but he's not great. The media makes it out to be like he's great. And the thing is what a lot of people like you and Model Body Fit, they go to an extreme and say Lamar is trash. He's not trash. He's good. He's just not great. But because the media is hyping him up as great, then it's like, well, we're going to go to the opposite extreme. I think he's good. He's just inconsistent. He's not great. He doesn't look necessarily like a Hall of Famer, but the media will make it out like he's a Hall of Famer. So I think this is just media.
Yeah, Gary, real quick. Lamar Jackson was first team All-Pro. He was voted first team All-Pro last year. And Josh Allen was voted the league MVP.
Right.
The same like 60 guys or something, I don't know if it's 50, 60, whatever, guys vote on both of those distinctions. And the last time that voting core split the first team All-Pro and the MVP was like 1987. So every other time that a league MVP was a quarterback, and oftentimes the league MVP is a quarterback, every other time since 1987, the guy they voted first team All-Pro also won the league MVP. So that was really nearly unprecedented what happened last year with Josh Allen getting it. That's how close this guy came to 3 league MVPs. 3, which would be more than like anybody ever. Other than it's as many or more. I think there's 7 or 8 guys that have 3, that have more than 2. There's 7 or 8 guys-ish. Guys, all-time guys like Unitas, Jim Brown, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. Tom Brady has 3. But the only guy that has more than 3 is Peyton Manning, who had 5. So you basically almost had Lamar Jackson getting more MVPs than all but like 7 dudes ever. And as many as everyone ever other than Peyton Manning. That is ridiculous. Yeah. At the age of 29, with 3 playoff wins, this scrub was nearly given 3 league MVPs. Thank God for whoever voted on that MVP, that the 60 guys that had the brain to not give that dude a 3rd league MVP. It would have made him, to me, the most overrated player in sports history. If that guy got 3 league MVPs, as many as freaking Tom Brady. Tom Brady, who played till he was like 45 years old, went to 10 freaking Super Bowls, almost had the same number of league MVPs as a dude with 3 total playoff wins. Literally, get the hell out of here. And get out of here, anyone on here that is in the comments right now saying generational hater or whatever, or different level of hating. No. That is how this is how it's done. Like I'm just saying it how it is. Lamar Jackson with 3 league MVPs and Tom Brady with 3 league MVPs would have literally made Lamar Jackson the most overrated player ever in any sport. I'm standing on that. So hopefully we'll see. Maybe Lamar can actually win a playoff game before his next league MVP. Maybe Lamar can actually get to a Super Bowl. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. We'll talk about it now in the next game, Gary, here momentarily, about Josh Allen, the pressure I think that he's facing with like, no Kansas City, like the field is kind of opened up. Like this would have been the year for Lamar to slither his way in too and do something with no Patrick Mahomes and no Kansas City, because the Chiefs have been like the gatekeeper of the AFC for, years. Like nobody could get by them. So like this was the year, essentially. This is the year. Lamar or Josh Allen, this was your year to go get to the Super Bowl. And Lamar ain't even going to have a crack at it now at this point because he's not in the field. Sorry for that continued rant there on Lamar. The Incorruptible, what's up, brother? Welcome to the party. Another regular. Obviously, I appreciate you so much and your support, Gary. What does the Incorruptible have for us?
Great to see you going live again, brother.
Yes, sir, brother. I'm hoping to do it more. Like, I think I've only been on live like 6 or 7 times since the NBA season began. So didn't do much after the NBA playoffs ended. A couple things in the summer, maybe like 8 to 10 things in the summer, and now less than 10 things since, September, October. So hopefully I want to get on like at least once a week and do a live, if not more frequently. So hopefully that's something that I can work out here in the new year of 2026. But thank you, as always, Incorruptible, for finding me no matter what time I come on or what I'm talking about here. John O'Ratcliffe, I mentioned him, again, a regular, always supportive of the channel, always sliding in to the sponsor area here of Skap Live. Shout out to you, John O'Ratcliffe. Always a pleasure to have you. Gary, what is this first of seemingly several John O'Ratcliffe super chats here?
I hate college football. Isn't it John an Ohio State fan?
He is.
Now he was hyping college football up, I thought. Now that Ohio State goes down, now he hates college football. The Jets are a joke, and about to draft a quarterback with massive holes on their roster, and Jaylen Brown is a beast. Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's to you, John O'Ratcliffe. And yes, condolences. Yes, I haven't been on to talk to you about your Buckeyes since we talked Ohio State throughout the summer and the early fall here. I was shocked. I was stunned. Even when they lost to Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, I still thought they were the substantial, overwhelming favorites. I would have, even after they lost that game to Indiana, if you told me that Ohio State didn't win the NCAA championship, I would have been shocked. I would have been in disbelief. So the fact that they got eliminated so early on, it really was shocking, John. My condolences. And now, look, I'm a Big Ten alum myself, a Penn State Nittany Lion alum. And the fact that this improbable and ridiculous Indiana run continues to march on to the point where I think they are the favorites now to win the NCAA championship. It just really makes my alma mater look like even more of a laughing stock. The fact that Penn State was preseason number one in some installations, and the fact that I'm surprised they even got a bowl. They somehow got a bowl game. www.com, who gives an F, .com bowl. That's where the bowl game they went to. I don't even know what the name of the bowl was, quite frankly. They didn't deserve a bowl. When you lose 5 straight games in conference as the number 2 preseason team, you shouldn't go to a bowl game at all. They won. Who cares? And now Indiana is about to humiliate Penn State further, John. And again, Ohio State, tough loss. I really did think they were going back to back this year. It was a huge surprise, I'm sure, to you and definitely to me as well. Look, John O'Ratcliffe is back again.
You have a pick for tonight, Indiana and Oregon?
Say it again.
You have a pick for tonight's game?
I want to see what the line is real quick. I'm going in on Indiana. I'm just gonna stay on Indiana. I think they are like a team of destiny now at this point. I think they're gonna go on and win tonight. They are -3.5. That's a tough line to call. I might actually like Oregon with the points, but to win it, I like Indiana, and I think they'll go on, and I think they will take care of business. IU in the championship game. Go ahead, Gary.
Fun fact, I have loved Oregon ever since Joey Harrington was there. I don't know why. I live in Florida, but I've always liked the Quack Pack Attack, the Duck mascot. I think they're like the funnest team in the country. I've always wanted to see Oregon win a national championship. I'm hoping this could be the year. It's lined up for them because Indiana's beatable. They're good, but they're beatable. And of course, Miami is overachieving. So I'm hoping this is the year for the Quack Pack Attack.
Real quick, I know I don't watch much college football, and I do watch all the NFL football. I watch probably the NFL as much or actually more than the NBA. So I love talking it when I get an opportunity like right now. I do not, full admission, watch that much college football. And look, I understand the setup. I understand the rules, if you will. Not even the rules, the unwritten rules that you basically have to mug somebody to get a PI call in the end zone on a Hail Mary. I understand that from watching years and years and years of football. Did you see the last play in that Miami game last night?
Yes, that was PI. That's what I said. That was PI.
That was an absolute assault in the end zone. I am disgusted that didn't get flagged. And it was even more disgusting that ESPN had some scrub rules analyst or whatever on the live broadcast and was talking nonsense there's mutual contact there. Get the hell out of here. Yeah. The Miami D-back rode him down the field for the last 10 yards, just grabbing at his pads, through his thing, ripping him out of the air while the ball landed in his hand, bounced, ricocheted off the receiver's hand in the end zone with 2 feet down. That absolutely should have been another down. And of course, unlike in the NFL, that would have been a spot foul, would have been on the 1 yard line in the NFL. It's just a 15-yard penalty in college. So it only would have moved them to the 30 or where I think they were on roughly the 40 or the 45. Right. It would have only moved. So, but give them, they deserved one untimed down from the 30 to try it again. That was total BS, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking the same thing. I was happy for Miami, but at the same time, I was also ooh, they got away with one there.
100%. All right, Gary, we've got a couple more from John O'Ratcliffe. What's this next one say?
Carolina already smacked the beat out of the Rams a few weeks ago. Also, the Thunder are calling the Spurs daddy. Harper, Castle, Wemby. What a trio.
Well, I don't want to get us too derailed on the Spurs or whatever.
Right. We'll have plenty of time. We have plenty of time on throughout the season.
Yes, and maybe we can touch back on it. Gary is a big Spurs fan, of course, as many of you know. And the Spurs do look quite good. They do drop puzzling games. They lose like head scratchers, and that they're kind of like a stereotypical play up to your opponent, play down to your opponent kind of team. Like if they're playing some crappy team, they typically keep that team in the game, and they can drop those games. But then they do play up to their opponents, it seems like, and they do. When they do that, they are an upper echelon team. I mean, I think they only played the Thunder this year 3 total times. So that's it. Those 3 matchups was all they're going to get.
5 times. They played on the 13th in 4 days. They played.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that. Okay, so they do play again. So wait, they play in January 13th. They play again.
I remember the date. I'll double check that. I believe it's January 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, goody. Well, the Thunder in general, Gary, look like garbage right now. I don't know if you've been watching them and their exploits. They lost to the Hornets like 4 nights ago. They got obliterated. They were down by 30 points in the third quarter as a 16-point home favorite. And then the very next game they played was the Utah Jazz, 15.5-point home favorites against the Jazz. And they needed a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander buzzer beater at the gun of regulation to get it into overtime. Like there was 2.7 seconds left in that game, and the Jazz were up by 2. If SGA didn't hit that shot, they would have lost that game too. Back-to-back losses it would have been against 16-point dogs at home. Like just a really puzzlingly terrible stretch for the Thunder. And it really did all begin, Gary, with your Spurs emasculating them for those 3 games. It really, something like the aura is just off right now. Like they're in their own head. It began with the Spurs just kind of snatching their will, it looks like.
Yeah. So are you going to eat your 75 game prediction?
Well, Gary, it's mathematically impossible for them to win 75. In fact, it's nearly mathematically impossible for them to even get to 73, even tie the record. I believe they have 7 losses right now, maybe 8. It's at minimum 7. Hang on one second. Let me check that out.
Yeah, they'd have to go clear the schedule to win 75.
They have 7 losses. So 2 more losses will essentially they have 7 losses, not even the All-Star break yet. And we're like a month plus away from the All-Star break. And they can only take 2 more losses to tie the record. So really, if they want to break the record at this point, Gary, it would mean they could lose 1 more game all year long. So I do not see that. I do not see that coming. To the other part, though, of John O'Ratcliffe's little comment here about the Carolina game. Yeah, that is true. I did reference that the Panthers have already beat the Rams this year. I don't think it's going to happen, though. I will again say this: it is straight trash that game is in Carolina. It should 100% be in LA. A team with 8 wins should not be hosting a team with 12. It's just ridiculous. We need to make some kind of a change on this. I think it has been voted on in the rules committee in the offseason. I think they voted on it last year, maybe the year before, maybe both years. They need to ratify that. I don't know what idiot owners out there, because it's just the owners essentially voting on it. What morons are not voting to change that rule? Like probably, I guess, owners in garbagey divisions maybe are not voting to ratify that. But for whatever, I don't know why that wouldn't be a unanimous vote. Like you don't get to just win a poopy division and host an undeserved playoff game against a better team that deserves a home game more than you. Like, I don't understand why this is difficult math for the NFL or for the owners that are voting on this. Next, we've got
just to confirm, next Tuesday, the 13th, Spurs travel to OKC on NBC Peacock.
Ooh,
and then the OKC goes to San Antonio on February 4th.
Okay, so 2 more games. Yeah, five games. Okay. Because I guess the one game was unscheduled and unplanned because it was part of the Emirates. Right. Okay. So that's why. Yep. Okay. All right. So there you have it. 2 more matchups. That will be tasty. You got to think Oklahoma City at some point has to dig their heels in the sand and just say, no, like we can't. We've got to do, even if they literally are just physically assaulting the Spurs all game. Like they have to dare the refs to just foul out all of their players. I feel like there has to be some measure of manhood put forth now by these Oklahoma City Thunder, who were just so utterly cocky when they started 24-1 and just have really just been beat down and put into submission by the Spurs. And then it really has affected their whole, the last like 3 weeks since they lost that first game. It's just been the dams broke loose and they started losing. I mean, there's no shame losing a game or two here or there to the Spurs or to the Timberwolves, but some of these losses they're just absolutely puzzling. They got sunk on a buzzer beater to the Suns and Devin Booker. Then like I said, they lost to the Hornets. They should have lost to the Jazz. Like they just have lost. I think they've lost some of the momentum and some of their focus when it became apparent that they weren't going to break that record. I think that's kind of a little bit of what's happening now. Some complacency because they know they're not going to get the record, but they're still going to get the 1 seed. So let's just F around with some of these games in January. Who cares? That's kind of what's going on. But I think they have to reassert dominance when they play the Spurs next. So that will be an interesting game in 4 days' time now on the 13th. We'll have to keep our eyes open for that one. Next thing, we've got Skap's Extra Strong Cologne with an extra strong little avatar there. You never disappoint with these avatars. Shout out to you, another regular. Welcome in. I know it's been like well over a month since I've been on here doing a live, so welcome, shout out. And I'm talking about football, which is an unusual thing for me to do. But Gary, what does Skap's Extra Strong Cologne have for us?
How funny would it be if this year's Super Bowl featured the Seahawks and the Broncos, considering Russell Dangerous Wilson is nowhere to be found?
Dangerous. Yeah. What a fall from grace for that guy. I mean, he was, to me, a slam dunk Hall of Famer. I don't know, probably not first ballot, but a slam dunk, open and shut Hall of Famer when he left Seattle. And now I just don't know. Like maybe he should have retired instead of going to other teams when he was going to leave Seattle. Because can you play your way out of the Hall of Fame? Can you keep playing and actually hurt your Hall of Fame case? I don't know, but we're going to see if Russell Wilson, is able to do just that, because he has had one of the more precipitous falls from grace that I've seen in sport in recent memory. And yes, obviously a myriad, if you will, of cringy ass commercials. That Subway commercial, one of the worst that I've ever seen, which is what Skap's Extra Strong Cologne is alluding to here with the Dangerous. If you haven't seen it, guys, I urge you to get on YouTube and just type in Dangerous or maybe Russell Wilson Subway commercial. It is just so utterly cringe. But yeah, that is like the Dangerous Bowl if it's Seattle and Denver. I don't expect it to be, but we'll get into our picks in a little bit here. That would be the 2 1 seeds. That would be very chalky if both 1 seeds got in to the Super Bowl. I do not see that happening. We've got John O'Ratcliffe though back in yet again. What's this final one here from John O'Ratcliffe say, Gary?
Outside only Pittsburgh, the Bears have the worst differential in the playoffs, and no one expects the Steelers to do anything. The Bears freaking suck.
Like I said, I'm going in on this. I've been against the Bears all year. I think they were a fraudulent team all season long. I'm shocked that they won the division. It's just ridiculous. And I guess that we'll see. I mean, I'm going in. I'm staying in on that. I'm going all in, and I'm going to proclaim that the Bears are frauds, that they do stink, and that they are going to lose in the first round at home this week. We'll see about the Steelers. We'll talk about that game probably in excess when we get to it. The final game on the slate, the Monday nighter. I am, for those of you who do not know, I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. I lived in Pittsburgh for half of my life. I used to be a rabid Steelers fan. Mike Tomlin and his pathetic era of losing has totally destroyed that fandom for me and snatched my Steeler love away. I can't stand him or them anymore at this point. So, yeah, I'm not picking the Steelers to do anything there. Although Mike Tomlin, the most overrated coach in NFL history, has never lost a home Monday night game. So the NFL is trying everything they can to get this guy a playoff win. It would be his first in 10 years. And a home game that he doesn't deserve on Monday night of all time. So that anything they can do for Mikey T, they will. And it still will likely result in him continuing his now decade streak of futility in the postseason. But yes, we will talk about that game more, I'm certain, when we get to it on Monday. And the Incorruptible finally is back in. Thank you, brother. I do appreciate you, Gary. What does this one say from the Incorruptible? Looks like, actually, wait, it looks like, is this to you maybe? Should I read this? What do you think?
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Also, great to have Gaslight Gary on. How about those Pacers? How did you and Skap meet?
Actually, it says Gaslit Gary, which I appreciate because he's showing that I'm the one being gaslit.
That you're the receiving end of it. Yes.
Thank you, Incorruptible, because I was gaslit by the Indiana Pacer fan base throughout the finals last year. I'm still in therapy with all the PTSD from it. But just simply saying, hey, Pacers fans, because they were talking smack and saying they were going to win. I said, just show up after every game. That's all I asked.
Keep that same energy.
Show up when the Pacers won. They were nowhere to be found. It was a ghost town when the Pacers lost. And then when I called that out, they said, Gary's gaslighting us. Huh? Doesn't even make sense.
How did we meet Incorruptible? We met, basically, Gary just saw some videos that he liked because he is kind of an anti-LeBron advocate as well, like myself. So I believe he saw some of my LeBron vids, and I am not hard to find. I answer my comments a lot. I'm in the comments a lot, and I do have my email address for everyone to see on my little whatever about page or about section
homepage
on my About Me YouTube thing. So Gary just shot me an email one time, and we started emailing back and forth. Eventually exchange numbers, and we've just been talking and collaborating, I guess you can call it, since and he had been trying to get me to do live streams for a long time. Eventually he talked me into it and convinced me, and we did all of those live streams as a result during the playoffs last year.
Yep.
But that is how it went down. Thank you, Incorruptible, for the question, and thank you again for your ongoing support here of the channel. Let's finally, Gary, get back. I will, if any other super chats come in, we will get to those and other comments and stuff as well. But I do want to talk about, to me, again, the juiciest game on the entire docket this weekend. I think you can make a case for the Bills-Jaguars Sunday. That's 1 p.m. on CBS. And it is probably a matchup of the two best teams, I think. Maybe you can say the Eagles and Niners possibly. But you've got the 12-5 Bills traveling to the division-winning 13-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. But again, we have, for the third game we're going to talk about, the third road favorite. Again, as with the Green Bay Bears game, it is a slim favorite. At that is Buffalo -1.5 on the road at Jacksonville. Gary, what say you on this game?
This one's a tough one to call, but I just don't think I don't trust the Jags. I live in Florida. I've observed them since they came into the league in the 90s. And they've just always been underwhelming in the playoffs. They made a really good run some years back. They took Brady to the brink in the AFC Championship game. That was with Blake Bortles was the quarterback there. And they were actually good that year. And I was like, whoa, they're close. Obviously, the Patriots edged them out. No shade against Jacksonville that year. That was legit. Maybe they'll prove to be legit this year as well, but I just cannot see them making a deep playoff run. Like I said, it seems to me like all of the division winners this year are actually weaker than the wild card teams. And I think Buffalo, this is their year because Drake May and Bo Nix are still inexperienced. Caleb Williams, inexperienced. Those guys are going to probably get better. So Josh Allen, his window is really closing. So I picked the Bills to beat the Jags in this game.
Let me just say this real quick about Josh Allen and the Bills. I think it was the first comment on here when I signed on 15 minutes before I was going to come on. I think somebody made a comment like, when is Skap going to make his Josh Allen apology video? Because I called him a bum 2 years ago. Well, I did make a video last year talking about how Josh Allen deserved the league MVP and should be the league MVP last year. I made that video early on, and I rode that Josh Allen train all the way to the end of the season when he did ultimately win the league MVP. The thing is, though, Josh Allen has not done it in the playoffs. Now, this guy's stats, Gary, I don't know if you've looked at these stats in the playoffs that he has. These games, these losses, by and large, are not on him. Like when you look at what like Lamar Jackson does, for instance, in the postseason, and the middling, mediocre, scrubbish-like performances that guy's laid down multiple times at home as a hefty favorite in the postseason. That ain't what's happening with Josh Allen. I honestly go and look at Aaron Rodgers. This guy has only made it to one Super Bowl, but go and look at some of the games that he lost in Green Bay. Like he was losing games he lost the game 45-41 in the playoffs one time. 36-33. These games, Rodgers was having good games while losing. Now, he did on his way out. He had some bad performance. There was a game against San Francisco near the end of his tenure at Green Bay where they lost, 13-3 in Green Bay while he was the 1 seed. There was some bad stuff at the end. But when you go back and look at prime Aaron Rodgers, after that Super Bowl run that he went on and won when he was 29 years old, if you look at those next couple seasons after that, those losses weren't on him. That's kind of the way I view many of these Josh Allen losses in the postseason. Josh Allen is playing out of his mind in these games. If you look at his postseason stats, they are absolute nasty. But he just doesn't win these games. And he doesn't win them by and large because he can't beat the Chiefs. Go again.
Hey, Skap, go to Q's modes, the next chat, because we're going to tie this into exactly what you're talking about now. In Q's mode, I think this is blasphemy. True or false, Josh Allen is the Jokic of the NFL. I love Josh Allen, but he's not on Jokic's. Jokic is making a case for top 10 of all time. I don't care if he never wins another ring. He is potentially top 10 all time. I wouldn't say that about Josh Allen.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Q-Smo Jimbo, a regular. I obviously appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the question as well. I do want to, let me just get into real quick. Let me get into the playoff game log by Josh Allen. I just want to look at these games. He's 7-6 in the postseason. So 13 games. I mean, how old is Josh Allen now? 29 maybe? 28, 29?
I can double check that.
He's 29 years old.
Go ahead.
He's 29, okay. So he will be 30 in May. So he's going to complete these playoffs still at just 29. So 13 games, by the way, is no small sample. He's been to a lot of postseason games. That in and of itself speaks for itself. Again, he and Lamar came in the same class in the NFL. Lamar's a bit younger because he was younger when he came out. But they were, I believe, the same class in the NFL. They came in the same draft class. Lamar's been to 8 playoff games only. Josh Allen's been to 13. And when I look at these stats, this is wild to look at these stats. Josh Allen in the postseason, guys, he's 7-6, one game over 500, 66% completion percentage, 3,400 yards, 3,359 yards. Are you ready for this? 25 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So in 13 games, this cat has thrown 25 and 4 and is only one game over 500. That's what I'm saying. These losses aren't on him. When I look at some of these game outcomes, like, I mean, these are some of the scores that his defense has given up. He lost the game 38-24. He lost the game 42-36. He lost the game 27-24. He lost the game 32-29. I mean, ultimately, you need to find a way to win games. And if you're the quarterback, I understand that the lion's share of the blame, the credit and the blame for that matter goes to you. But when you've got Lamar, like I said, Lamar Jackson has 13 total touchdowns and 11 total turnovers. Josh Allen, let me see his running stats real quick. Let me see how many fumbles lost he has and how many touchdowns he has. Fumbles lost 2, rushing touchdowns, blah, 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 rushing touchdowns. Sorry, I'm having 7. So he has 7 rushing touchdowns. Quick math, not my suit. 32 total touchdowns and 6 total turnovers. So, like, Lamar Jackson, 13 total touchdowns, 11 total turnovers. Josh Allen with 32 touchdowns and 6 turnovers. That guy's playing well above Lamar Jackson. Way above Lamar Jackson. Now, he hasn't had the success, but I don't think that he's to blame as much as Lamar Jackson is. I'll let you back in a second, Gary, because ultimately I am going to agree with you. The time, though, is here and now. Like, he's going to be 30. He's a league MVP. There is now his big nemesis, the guy that he never could get over, the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, who are just better, I think. The Chiefs were better. Mahomes is better. They ain't here now. So, like, right here and right now is the time. It's a tough matchup against the Jaguars, a good Jaguars team, I think. But Josh Allen's got to get to the Super Bowl this year, in my estimation. The AFC is freaking wide open, and it's here for the taking for Josh Allen. And if he doesn't do it, I don't care what they could lose 72-69. If they don't get to the Super Bowl this year, it is going to be a referendum and a commentary, I think, a negative one on Josh Allen. Go ahead.
2 years ago, though, I do say that loss is on Josh Allen, even if it's not fair, because I remember this strictly by memory because I was at such a loss. I picked the Chiefs. It was in Buffalo. This was the last time the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. They went to they hosted Miami in like one of the coldest games of all time and beat Miami, obviously. And then the next week they had to go to Buffalo. Then when they beat Buffalo, they had to go to Baltimore. And then they ultimately beat San Fran in that Super Bowl. But in round 2, the Bills, like a lot of people were picking the Bills to beat the Chiefs, just like they were picking the Ravens to beat the Chiefs. I said I thought the Chiefs were going to run it back, and they did. I think me and for once, Nick Wright and I were like the only one. Even Jason Whitlock, a diehard Chiefs fan, said that Ravens team was a historically great team, and he thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. And a bunch of analysts were saying that, and I was like, what are y'all talking about? Lamar still hasn't proven anything. I'm taking Mahomes. And on top of that, they were thinking that Buffalo was going to not upset. They were favored to beat KC in round 2. This is my point. This was Josh Allen's time to prove it. 2 minutes to go in the game. I want to say it was 27-24. The Chiefs were up by 3. The Bills were in the red zone. They were at the 20. 2 minutes to go. It's there for the taking. All Josh Allen has to do is pace them, get them into the end zone. And what do you want to do? You want to leave the Chiefs, leave Mahomes with no time to come back, right? Well, for some reason, Josh Allen, with 2 minutes to go from the 20, tries to force a touchdown. And it got picked off. And it was at that point I said Josh Allen is never going to be in the same breath as Brady, Manning, Mahomes, Montana as the greats. Because look at these boneheaded decisions. Why did you try to force a 20-yard touchdown with 2 minutes on the clock? Because even had they scored, I don't have any reason to believe why couldn't KC go down with like 1 minute and 55 seconds to go and score a touchdown to win at the end? Why would you leave Mahomes that much time? So it's a double boneheaded. You threw a pick one, and then two, you left Mahomes nearly 2 minutes on the game clock.
Like I said, I'm not going to push back. I think by and large, you guys played pretty great in the playoffs,
Yeah.
and specifically from a statistical standpoint. I got to think with the 25-4 touchdown to interception ratio, he's got to be one of the top 3 or 4 rated passers in playoff history. Let me see, top QB ratings, playoff history here. Sorry, let me just sidebar real quick. All right. Well, I did not do my search query was not really enjoyed here by Google, but I gotta think that 25-4 rating, the QB rating has to be off the charts for Josh Allen. I'd say easy top 5 all time. Now he's made mistakes like you just highlighted, and I think they've basically come against the Chiefs. That I think that the Bills could have gotten to the Super Bowl multiple times now over the last couple of years, but they just run up against the kryptonite is the Chiefs because, look, Patrick Mahomes, ultimately, the Chiefs had a down year. They didn't make the playoffs. Mahomes wasn't good by and large. They had some issues with the O-line. They had injury things going on. They had the Rashee Rice suspension for 6 weeks. Yada, yada, yada. You can make whatever number of excuses you want to about Patrick Mahomes. I hate the Brady-Mahomes comparisons. I think they're outrageous. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is anywhere near Tom Brady at this point. I don't think it's even close. With that said, he's pretty close to every other quarterback that's ever played. I think you can make a case, obviously still for Montana above Mahomes. And maybe if you want, possibly Peyton Manning. That could be it. That could be the list. So, I do think very highly of Patrick Mahomes. Look, there's no shame if you can't beat one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time in his prime that also happens to have a great defense and a great play caller and head coach in Andy Reid. There's no shame in that necessarily for Josh Allen. However, there's no Chiefs this year. So now this is the year that he wipes that all away. Look, like I said, I grew up a Steelers fan. Brady absolutely beat our brains in all the time. He completely owned the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers won 2 Super Bowls in that early 2000s time. The first one came before Tom Brady was really Tom Brady. And the next one came when Tom Brady ripped his knee to oblivion in the preseason. That was the other Super Bowl, the Tomlin Super Bowl, where Pittsburgh went and beat the Cardinals. That year, Tom Brady did not play in the NFL because he tore his ACL in week 1 of the regular season. So he wasn't available to play in the playoffs that year, obviously. This year is that year for Josh Allen. It's time for him to go get it done. The NFC and the AFC are both wide ass open. You are allegedly the best player. He's still, I think he's going to finish top 3 in league MVP this year. He won it last year. Many people still think he's the best player this season, even though he will not win the league MVP. Well, go prove it. If you sit here now, if he sits back and sees 23-year-old Drake May or 23-year-old Bo Nix go to the Super Bowl past him in a year where there's no Lamar, where there's no Patrick Mahomes, that's a referendum on Josh Allen. We agree on that. So Gary, let's cut through the minutia here at this point. Who you got? Who do you think is going to win this game at Jacksonville? Again, Buffalo, a very modest.
I got the Bills.
Okay. I think I'm going to agree with you. This is the game, though, where I am pretty confident. I'm pretty confident that the Bills are going to win. But ultimately, if you fast forward to Monday morning and the Jags won, ultimately I shouldn't have been surprised at all. So this is that game of this slate where I'm the Bills should absolutely take care of business in this. But the Jags, though, have been kind of going under the radar all year. They're playing great football right now. They're one of the many instances in the NFL this year that coaching really freaking matters in the NFL. When you look at the Jags turnaround, the Bears turnaround, you really see the impact of making a coaching change in the league. I'm leaving somebody out. The Bears, the Jaguars, and I'm leaving some to and the Patriots. Like when you look at those teams, all the coaching changes they made and the turnarounds all of those teams have experienced now this season, like it really has spoken volumes. And the Jaguars have been very, very impressive. Trevor Lawrence, who has looked like one of the biggest busts ever, because I thought this kid was a cannot miss coming out of Clemson. I thought he was generational. I thought he was like Elway-esque, like I can't miss. And he has looked just like bust city for the predominant amount of his career. But and he hasn't been exceptional all year this year, but the last month, he has been lighting it up. So this is not going to be an easy game for the Bills, but ultimately I'm with you. I think the Bills win. I think Josh Allen finds a way because, quite frankly, he has to. Like this is a legacy kind of moment for him this postseason. He's got to get it done. I think the Bills, I think they should win the Super Bowl. I don't know that I'm going to pick them to do that. But if they don't, again, that's on Josh Allen, I think. And people are going to have to start talking about that accordingly. Next, Gary, let's move to the next game, which is the 49ers and the Eagles. The Eagles are a massive favorite at home, which, again, they shouldn't be. We started this live stream about an hour ago. The Eagles playing in a poop division, playing a team coming from a superior division, a team that has faced an unbelievable amount of injuries. The San Francisco 49ers were without their franchise $50 million a year quarterback, Brock Purdy, for like 2/3 of this season. They were without their all-pro tight end, George Kittle, for like 2 months. They were without essentially their entire wide receiving core for most of the year, intermittently on and off. They were without Fred Warner, who is a perennial, like all-pro first team kind of a guy on the defense, and Nick Bosa, who is a former defensive player of the year. So they were without all of that. And even with it all, they win 12 games. They go through the best division in football, and their reward is going on the road, a West Coast warm weather team going on the road to Philly, a brutally cold atmosphere against a team that is dominant at home, that is defending champions, that just kind of cakewalks into the playoffs in an ass division. It's just not right. That game should be played in San Francisco. I think, look, like I said, massive favorites. The Eagles are -5.5. They're the biggest favorite of the week other than the Rams and Panthers game, which is a monstrosity of a line, -10.5. But the Eagles, substantial favorites in this one, Gary. What do you think about this one?
This is the hardest one of the week for me to pick. I think this is the best matchup. I hate to say it, Philly's probably my least favorite team, but I think Philly's probably going to win, unfortunately.
Garrett, I think we're aligned on every single pick so far, and I'm going to agree with you on this one. And I think it's only because, again, the game is being played where it's at. If the game was in San Fran, I would pick San Francisco with confidence, even despite the fact they're dealing with a ton of injuries, including, I don't know, I haven't gotten any word on Trent Williams, their all-pro, like all-everything guard. I don't know go ahead.
I've lost a little faith in the Niners since they looked so anemic against Seattle. Phillip Rivers 3 weeks ago came out of retirement at 45 years old and led the team to go ahead of that same defense in Seattle. And then Seattle had to rush down and get a field goal to win it. Phillip Rivers looked better against Seattle than Brock Purdy, who Brock Purdy's in his prime.
Gary, did you see what Brock Purdy had done for like the 3 previous games going into that game, though?
I don't remember. What did he do? Was he good or bad?
He was phenomenal, Gary. Let me just read you these lines, particularly his game the week before against the Bears, which was one of.
Oh yeah, we were texting back and forth during that game. Yeah.
Let me read you these last couple box scores though, from Purdy until that Seattle game. So they won. Okay. So he comes to Tennessee. He was 23 of 30, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. They won 37-24. The next week against the Colts, he was 25 of 34, 295 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. They won 48-27. The following week against the Bears, he was 24 of 33, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. They won 42-38. So they put up 37, 48, and 42 points in successive three-week spans. And Purdy had 11 touchdowns and 2 picks and averaged like 300 yards a game on like 74% completion percentage. So that Seattle game, Gary, I think what happened there was just a classic case of like, they were just beat to shit at that point. Like they just burnt out. They shot their load to get to that point, to have the opportunity to get the 1 seed. And then it was a perfect storm. Trent Williams, again, I mentioned, they're all pro guy. He protects the blind side of Purdy. Seattle has a pretty stout defensive front. They were generating extreme and continued pressure on him throughout the game with really only 4 or 5 guys rushing every time. And I think Williams would have probably made a difference there. Secondarily, Ricky Pearsall is a stud. If people don't know who Ricky Pearsall is, this dude was a wide receiver in Florida. He was their first-round pick 2 years ago. He actually, in the preseason, he was involved in a mugging in, I think it was New York City, like freshly after him getting drafted by the Niners. Someone stole his watch at gunpoint, and he was struggling and fighting with the assailant. He got shot in the chest during the altercation. He got up after getting shot in the chest, chased down the gunman, the thief, wrestled the gun off of him, shot him, took his watch back, and then walked to the ambulance. Then he played 8-9 weeks later after that and was a beast in the last month for the Niners. This season he came in, second year, and looked like their star number 1 wide receiver for the first 3 games until he got this PCL injury that cost him basically 9 straight weeks. So then he came back after a 9-week hiatus with that PCL injury in his knee and looked like his timing was off. His timing with the offense was off and so forth. Didn't look great for the 3-4 games that he came back. Then in the last 2 or 3 games of the season when the Niners were exploding, he was kind of ramped back up. He had a 100-yard game in one of those. He also then re-aggravated that PCL injury. He missed the whole game. He did not dress against Seattle. He is their primary man beater, and that is what they really were lacking in that game against Seattle. So in addition to the lack of protection that was highlighted and accentuated by Williams being out, they did not have really their only man beater. Because remember, Brandon Ayuk was supposed to be back at some point this season. He never came back either. So I think all of those things factored in to them looking so abysmal and anemic, as you pointed out, against Seattle. I think they were going to regroup here in the playoffs, but it ain't going to happen now in Philadelphia. If the game was in San Fran, I like the Niners to win that game. With it being outside and cold in Philly, and again, against a team that, to me, Philly is just underachieved and underperformed all season long. I still think they are the most talented team in the NFL, and I think they still have the ability to play up to level, not quite maybe what they did last year, but they're virtually the same team. So I still think they have that ability within them, something that they've not shown through much of the season, something, unfortunately, for San Francisco, who gets the double whammy of having to go and play on the road. Unfair, ridiculous. I think I got to pick the Eagles in this game too, Gary. I'm with you for yet another game.
Yeah. Hopefully we're wrong.
Agreed. Now, before we segue in to this next slate, let me get back to my slate. The next game, which is Chargers-Patriots. We only have 2 games left. I do want to take a quick diversion to get back to just a few of these super chats. We have more coming in. So I don't want to let those go by the wayside. Shout out to all of you who are here, who are in the comment section, who are participating. I appreciate all of you guys. And shout out to all of you guys that are super chatting us now. I'm going to go and I'm going to hit some of these. I see some good questions and some generous donations here. So let me just divert ever so quickly, and then we will be back momentarily to talk Chargers, Patriots. But Gary, first, John O'Ratcliffe back yet again for, super chat number 4 or 5 here on the day. What's up, John? What's this latest one say, Gary?
Lawrence versus Darnold, Super Bowl 60, also known as the New York Jets, what could have, should have been game. Gave up on Darnold and lost L-Law on to contract AIDS.
Yeah, not sure about that second sentence there, John. I'm not certain. What I don't know what you're talking about there either. But I could see a world where it's the Jaguars and the Seahawks in the Super Bowl, which would be pretty crazy if that happened. That would be like one of the least desired matchups. I'm certain by the NFL league offices, they're dreading that kind of a matchup. But the Jags, like I said, they're playing a wild card weekend, but they're 13-4 this year. And I think I said that the Seahawks were 13-4, but I think they're 14-3 actually. So that would be two upper echelon teams, obviously the number one seed in the NFC. And I think the odds on favorite technically to win the Super Bowl right now, if I check the books overall. And then the Jags, again, have been playing very, very well the last 4 games, really, and all year, again, 13-4. And they're doing it largely. They lost their number 1 overall pick, Travis Hunter, who, remember, won the Heisman Trophy last year. And the Jags gave up a lot to get up to, I believe, the 2nd pick overall to select Hunter. He was supposed to be like their wide receiver 2 or whatever, their gadget receiver, their guy they used in space. I thought he was going to be deployed kind of like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type of guy in that system. But look, he did nothing the first like 6 or 7 weeks. Then he had a breakout game. The coaching staff said that they were going to target the hell out of him, get him involved more. That one game, they peppered him with like 13 or 14 targets. He had like 9 or 10 catches, 120 yards. It was his big breakout game. Finally, Travis Hunter had appeared, showed up, was going to have a big second half of the season. They had a bye week, coincidentally, off of that game. He tore his ACL in the bye week and missed the remainder of the season. I only talk about this because he was, of course, on my fantasy team, and I had quite a lot of injuries this year on my fantasy team. I don't even really think of him as one of them because of all of the other higher profile ones I have, but he was one that I was excited about for the second half of the season. And look, the Jags haven't even had him, and they've really come on in this second half of the year and really played their way into that division title, Gary. I know you don't think much of them, and I know we both picked against them, but it wouldn't stun me if they made a run to get into the playoffs. And Seattle is an even easier call. I could see them going on a run now with just having to win 2 home games with that defense and that running game. I could absolutely see that. John, thank you, though, for more support and more contribution. Next in, we've got my main man, Stefan. What is up, brother? Vacation Wealth Partners, of course it is, who is one of our most generous benefactors here in the sponsor area of the Skap live stream. So thank you. Welcome to the party, my friend. Happy New Year's to you. I do see that you've sent us a couple here. So let's get to this first one, and then we'll jump to the other one. What does he have for us first, though, Gary?
Skap doing an NFL playoff live. That is how you kick the year off right. Let's go. And Skap, I've got a Steelers SFO. I'm guessing that's San Francisco, and the O is a typo, is what I'm guessing. Got a Steelers San Francisco 370-1 Super Bowl exacta. I'm rooting for
370-1 payout is just crazy. It's just crazy. So I won't ask, Stephen, how much you have on that. You don't have to disclose the amount that you have, but that 370-1 would be a nice payout. I personally, again, look, I thought 3 weeks ago the Rams were going to get the 1 seed and win the Super Bowl. Then 2 weeks ago, when the Niners, when I read off to you what they were doing offensively and what Purdy was doing, 2 weeks ago, I thought the Niners were going to win out, get the 1 seed, because if they won out, including beating Seattle, they would have got the 1 seed, played 2 home games after a bye week at home, then hosted the Super Bowl in San Francisco. So 3 weeks ago, I would have said the Rams were winning the Super Bowl. 2 weeks ago, I thought the Niners were winning the Super Bowl. So realistically, anything is possible. As Kevin Garnett once famously said, I believe at the end of the 2008 NBA championship, anything is possible. This year in the NFL playoffs, anything is freaking possible, Stephen. Good luck to you. And that exacto at 370-1 payout would be a nice little New Year's payday for you. So I would say I'm really rooting for you, but I can't stand Mike Tomlin. And if Mike Tomlin gets into the Super Bowl, I will never see the end of him. He might as well, look, they might as well just build a statue right now and give him like, God knows, if he just wins a playoff game this year, it's probably going to be like a 10-year, $150 million extension. If he wins a Super Bowl, it's just going to be like a Supreme Court justice designation. Like they're just going to be like, look, $20 million a year for life. Like you have a lifetime, option to coach until the day you drop dead, Mikey T, and you'll make 20 mil every year, no matter what, to do it. That's what I'm looking at as a suffering Pittsburgh Steelers fan. If Mike Tomlin gets into the Super Bowl, but still for you, bro, I will remain optimistic for you and kind of root for your big 370-1 payday to cash. Next in, we've got Jake. Let me try this here. Jake Lovewalk. How did I do, Gary? What do you think? Do you think I got that or not?
I think that's accurate.
Jake, thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the sponsor area. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. And what does Jake have for us, Gary?
Have you always liked Brady? Allen is like Big Ben. And this was actually a topic you and I fought about on a live stream last summer.
That's a great question. I do love Brady. He is probably, if you see the Kobe Bryant's stuff surrounding me, I am a big Nikola Jokic fan, admittedly. Jokic is climbing up my ladder of my all-time favorite athletes. Kobe is number one, far and away everybody else. Jordan is kind of maybe in there. Not really. I'm not really as big on Jordan as definitely not Kobe. And Jokic is maybe even encroaching on Jordan. I love Randy Moss. He's in my top 5 all time for sure. But I would say if you put a gun to my head and said, not Kobe, who's your favorite athlete other than Kobe? I might say Tom Brady. He might be my second favorite athlete ever. But it's a great question, Jake, because I absolutely hated his guts for the first 10 years of his career. I could not stand him. I, again, was a humongous Steelers fan. I was in the stadium at the time. It was still Three Rivers, I do believe. I don't think it was Heinz Field yet. In the 99, 2000 or whatever it was it? Maybe it was 2000. No, it was 2001, I believe, because it was the Patriots won, Gary. Correct me if I'm wrong. They beat the Rams in the 01 Super Bowl, right? The 9/11 year, the Patriots.
Actually, it was the 02.
Okay.
The 2001 season, 2002 Super Bowl.
Okay. So yeah. I was in the building, in the stadium with my dad. I was, I don't know, maybe a senior in high school or something, or a junior in high school during that game. I don't know. I was in high school, I believe. And crazy things happened in that game. Actually, Brady got knocked out. Bledsoe came in and threw the back-breaking touchdown. But the Steelers were huge favorites in that game. I think they were like 9.5-point favorites or something in that game. After, again, that was the tuck rule that Brady, looked like he fumbled against the Raiders. They turned it over. They beat the Raiders. Then they go into the Steelers. They go into Pittsburgh. And then the Steelers, again, they're like 9.5-point favorites in that game. They shock the Steelers, go on into the Super Bowl, and then shock the world. I know we don't have to relitigate it. I know you weren't that surprised by it, but it is the biggest upset by betting line in Super Bowl history, or at least since Super Bowl III. And I hated Brady from that moment on. I thought, this lucky slouch, like this bum game managing loser who just lucked into this great defense and Bill Belichick. And then he goes on and wins 2 more after that, 3 Super Bowls by like the age of whatever, 27 or 28. I couldn't hate this guy anymore. But, and see, this is why people always say I'm a hater. Like I hate LeBron, whatever. I hate Lamar, whatever. I just want to see greatness. That's all. I'm just asking that these guys live up to their ink, to the press that they're getting. I want if they're called greats and legends and whatever, I want them to actually be great legends and so forth. Tom Brady, to me, I thought, incorrectly, of course, was just a lucky game manager. But over the course of time of his career, the longer it went on, the more things that he achieved on the after and on the back end, the more this guy just forced my hand to the point where not only did he went from my most hated athlete ever. This is how much I hated Tom Brady for like 10 years, because I was also not only a Steeler fan, a big Peyton Manning guy. I hated Tom Brady as much as any athlete ever, maybe other than LeBron. Probably LeBron is the only guy that I have more ire for other than Brady at one point. Now Tom Brady is my second favorite athlete ever, my second most beloved athlete ever, because he forced it upon with his sheer undeniable greatness. He made me like him and admire him and then ultimately come to love him. Something that LeBron James has never done in 24 years, however long this bum has been gallivanting around the NBA. I've been waiting, praying for him to show me all of the stuff that all of these sycophantic bootlickers have been talking about for 23, 24 years, whatever. And still, he just continues to expose himself as the fraud that he is. So it's not me. I'm not a hater, guys. I am just merely a reflection of what is going on. I'm just calling it like it is. And ultimately, at some point in time, I had to call it like it was. Tom Brady is a freaking god amongst men. And to me, my second favorite athlete ever, other than the late, great Kobe Bryant. Great question, Jake. Sorry to get on a little twist and turn here. That's what we do on these live streams, though, right, Gary? We just get off on little tangents and meander around different pathways. But let's jump back to Vacation Wealth Partners with another generous donation for us. Again, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. What does this one say, Gary? Go ahead.
Okay, Vacation, what is up, man? But what is more blasphemy? First of all, it's bad enough that Cuse mode compared Josh Allen to Jokic. Now he's going to another level with Purdy. Okay, top 5 active quarterbacks. It's harder to make the list than most think. Side note, could Purdy become the Jokic of the NFL? No. The media hate is pretty similar. Roll Tide, RIP, Kobe Bryant.
Wow, a lot here, a lot to address here. Top 5 active quarterbacks, Gary. I don't know do you want to get a swing at this as well?
Top 5 active quarter. Okay, well, Mahomes,
easy,
and Joe Burrow,
easy. I would say for sure.
Josh Allen,
no disagreement right now. And quick sidebar on Joe Burrow. That dude, we need to get some kind of offensive line built in Cincinnati, or a defense, one or the other. I think let's just say either or a defense or an offensive line, and the Bengals would be a perennial Super Bowl contender because Joe Burrow, he's an absolute stud. He's already played in a Super Bowl, by the way, which Josh Allen has not, and Lamar Jackson has not. Joe Burrow played in a Super Bowl, and quite frankly, if he didn't bang his knee up, I don't know exactly precisely what he did. I think he needed an off-season procedure. If that was a regular game, he likely wouldn't have finished that game. If he didn't tear his knee up in that game, I'm not certain that the Bengals didn't win that Super Bowl against the Rams. But I digress. I'd say Burrow, I think very highly of him. He is certainly in my top 5. Yes, along with you got to go Mahomes still. I don't care. The numbers have looked pretty lousy overall, especially for his standards the last 3 years. But the guy's an absolute winner. He gets it done when it counts, and he's almost unbeatable when he's in the playoffs. I'm with you on those. And Josh Allen, say what you will about his playoff struggles. We've talked about it. He has been elite, though, statistically in the playoffs. He is the reigning league MVP until they announce whoever it is this year. I would say definitely, without doubt, those 3 guys, Gary.
And Justin Herbert, and probably either Stafford or Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels returns back to form, Jaden Daniels, his rookie year, looked like a top 5, top 7, top 8 quarterback.
It's tough, Gary.
He was so good his rookie year.
It's tough. I am a big Herbert fan, and I don't think they've done enough to support him and his growth there either.
Right, I agree. I'm talking talent-wise.
In a vacuum, I think Herbert is a top 3 quarterback. Like talent-wise, I agree with you.
Right.
In a vacuum, it's hard though, especially on the heels of this year. We talked 3 guys that I agree are like locks pretty much. It's hard to not put in Stafford and Drake May. Now, May hasn't shown it a lot, but like those 2 guys, one of those guys is going to be the league MVP this year. The other guy will finish runner-up. I think Drake May might win the league MVP, and if he does, Matt Stafford is gonna lose the MVP with roughly, I'm paraphrasing off the top of my, or not paraphrasing, but this is off the top of my head. I think 4,700 yards roughly, 47 touchdowns and 8 picks and 12 wins. That's Matt Stafford's year this year. That will be an all-time bananas season to not get the league MVP if he doesn't get it. I mean, going into the last game of the regular season, Drake May was a pretty healthy favorite. Then May had a pretty subdued final outcome. I think it was against the Jets, whereas Matt Stafford threw like 4 touchdowns and 250 yards and no picks in his last game. Then Stafford surged back ahead to be a slight betting line favorite. I think ultimately Drake May is going to get it just because they won more games. They won the division. He has less help, but Stafford's numbers are hard to avoid right now. He led the NFL in yards this year. He led the NFL in touchdowns, and he led the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio. It's the first time that that's been done since 2007 when Tom Brady did it. So like, I get it. He's 37. He's got an ailing back. His best years are behind him. But if we're talking top 5 active QBs right this second, it's hard for me to not put Matt Stafford in that list.
Yeah, I think Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks right now. Obviously, we didn't realize how good he's going to be at the beginning of the year. He's having all the health issues. He's turned it around, and I'm going to elaborate more on that. I want to save that for as we wrap up our predictions. I'm going to be talking about Matthew Stafford more.
Okay. To continue on real quick on this, we'll get through this one specific.
Jokic to the NFL.
So I think what he's saying is like Jokic, what was he, the 43rd pick or the 41st pick of his draft?
Something I want to say 41st, but
41,
40
There's only 2 rounds really in the NBA draft, and second round picks are typically just complete throw-ins. They're out of the league quickly. They really don't materialize. There are a couple guys that have come from the second round to have an elite NBA career, but there's never been anything like what Jokic is doing. Like if you look at the top, like look at the all-time PER, like player efficiency rating. Look at the top like 25 guys. Like pretty much all of them were a top 3 pick. Like most of them were first overall picks, or they were the third pick overall, maybe the 15th pick or whatever at the very worst. Nikola Jokic is the all-time leader in PER by a lot, like over a point now above Michael Jordan. And he was the 41st pick in the draft. Like he came from absolute nothingness to be a top 10 all-time player. Like, I think so. Maybe, I don't want to insinuate here, but maybe Stefan is talking about that here in this comment, because Purdy, I believe, was like the last pick of the draft. There's way more drafts way more rounds in the NFL draft, like 7. But I think Purdy was, they call it Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick of the draft. I'm pretty sure Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. Now, we've seen it before. Tom Brady, the greatest player in NFL history, also was a 7th round pick. So like, if anything, I would say Tom Brady is the Jokic, or Jokic is the Brady, or whatever correlation you want to draw there. But I see Vacation Wealth Partners out. I see him working right here with that comp. And Purdy, honestly, again, I mentioned my own fantasy team and the injuries that I had to deal with this year. Brock Purdy was my pick. I was between, listen to this, Gary, I was between Drake May and Brock Purdy for my QB this year. Both of them were available to me at the draft. I waited it out. My whole league took quarterbacks. Purdy and May were both available, and I chose Purdy over May. Of course, that looks terrible now because May is going to be the league MVP. But I was high on both. I thought Purdy was going to be the league MVP, though, because I looked at their preseason schedule. I thought there had to be some injury regression this season for the Niners. I thought they would win 14 or 15 games because their schedule was such a cakewalk. And I thought Purdy's numbers would be unbelievable. Of course, Purdy, like I said, missed like 9 or 10 games, but he's played 8 games and he's like 24 total touchdowns in 8 games. Like 20, I think he has 20 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns in 8 games. So like Purdy, I think, and they won 12 even with Mac Jones playing the vast majority of the season. So again, I think they would have won 14 or 15 games if Purdy and Kittle and all those injuries didn't happen. I think Brock Purdy would have been the NFL MVP this season if they didn't get all those injuries. So I see you working out there, Vacation Well Partners, but go ahead, jump back in, Gary.
This is my thought. Jokic has performed at an MVP level, even when at times has a mediocre supporting cast. He makes everyone around him better. Purdy, on the other hand, he needs certain things to be in place in order to put up good numbers. And when things, like most athletes, if things fall apart on the team, it's going to severely affect the performance of the player. In this case, Brock Purdy looks very mediocre when things are not clicking quite right. When they are clicking right, he looks really good. Jokic, on the other hand, it doesn't matter. He looks like a top 10 player of all time, regardless. With Jokic, it translates more to wins in playoff runs. Mediocre crew, then he doesn't go far in the playoffs. But he still looks like a top 10 player of all time, regardless of the outcome of the games.
Totally fair. Totally agree. And I'm not saying Purdy's anywhere close to getting on Jokic's level. But again, he's played in a Super Bowl as well. And honestly, they outplayed the Chiefs. They had a drive. They were on the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl against Kansas City to go score a touchdown. I don't know why, decided to kick a field goal. I said while watching that game, Mahomes will go score a touchdown now and the game will be over. So Purdy led them to outplay the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. He led them to the 1 yard line in overtime. The coaching staff ate a field goal. Mahomes went down and won the Super Bowl on a walk-off touchdown. But so Purdy's been in the Super Bowl as well already. He's played the Chiefs toe-to-toe, could have won that game. He could be a Super Bowl champion already. So I'm just saying it's not close. He's nowhere near Jokic yet, and the comp isn't there yet. But it's not a completely out of the park type of analogy where you look at like both of them coming from nowhere in their drafts, like totally unheralded picks and coming into kind of like league leading status. We'll see what Purdy's got to do more. He's obviously needs to get that league MVP. He needs to get that Super Bowl before we start talking about Jokic. But yeah, I think Jokic and Brady probably are a more fair comp there. And then go ahead.
We need to. We're going to get to Jake's comment momentarily, but you need to skip down because you're getting called out by a special guest down there.
I see that. I see
that.
I see that.
Mr. Skap Sr. is in the house.
Yeah, I see. Welcome to the party, Bob Skapanak. That would be my dad, actually, for those of you who don't know. Skap Attack, coming from my last name. If you didn't know, Jay Skapanak here. And that would be, yes, the senior Skap in for a super chat. Thank you very much, Pops. I do appreciate the support and you tuning in as always. My mom and dad typically listen to all of the stuff that I do, all my videos and stuff. I, of course, appreciate that very much. Gary, though, but what does Bob have for us here in terms of the comment or question?
If Dan Bongino can resign as assistant director of the FBI to do his daily podcast, you can certainly find time to do one weekly live show.
Fair. I mean, I have no pushback there. I really can't retort in any way or offer any kind of pushback or argument on that. I don't know. I should. Yes, I should. It's been a goal for a while that I wanted to do more live shows, do like a scheduled live every week, and then maybe another one or two sprinkled in depending on how things are going. So that's a good 2026 goal. We're 9 days in now, officially into the new year. So new year, new you, as they say, or whatever. Maybe my YouTube resolution or whatever will be to do more live streams. I do enjoy them. I like talking all the shit with all of you guys, and obviously always a pleasure to have Gary on as well. So you got it, Dad. Maybe I will try to hop on here, make it a plan starting next week to design some kind of live stream schedule. Of course, I will let you guys know as well when I figure that out. But yes, Gary, you mentioned, I think when we get to Jake, that will catch us up on the super chats and we can get back to our final two games. Jake Koning, what is up, my friend? Welcome into you. And thank you for joining us as always and supporting the channel. Gary, what does Jake have for us?
Skap, I should unsub for you picking against my Niners, but I'll support the channel because you ride or die for Jokic and Kobe. But I hope you're eating crow for your Eagles pick. We all do too, Jake. We're
Me too.
For the Niners.
Jake, it gives me no pleasure to do so. In fact, right now, if I look at the whole field, I like the Lions a lot. I'm a big Dan Campbell fan. If I look at the whole field, though, right now, I'm rooting for the Niners to win the Super Bowl. Like, they have had such abysmal luck. Just a terrible injury bug hit them last year. And then, again, like I said, I thought that they were going to get some regression with the injury in a positive way this year. And yet it's been arguably even worse this year. And again, I think they should have won the Super Bowl. Quite frankly, that year they got to the Super Bowl, outplayed the Chiefs. They were beating them pretty badly in the first half. They kept the Chiefs in too close, and then taking the field goal was an awful idea. Like I said, I said it in live time. I think that season McCaffrey should have been the league MVP that year. And the Niners, look, and then I didn't even mention the last time they played the Eagles. This is really nauseating. And Jake, just so you know, I lived in Philadelphia for about 5 years. I'm from Pittsburgh, but I went to Penn State, so I lived in Central PA for years. I lived in Philly as well for about 5 years. No one dislikes that city more than me because I have so many close friends that are so insufferable. They are the insufferable, you know, the Eagles fans, insufferable Eagles fans and Philly fans in general, insufferable. So the last time the Niners played the Eagles, of course, they lost like every quarterback they had rostered. And that was the year the Eagles went on and lost the Super Bowl then to the Chiefs. But like the Niners have been knocking at the door for several years now. And I really like San Francisco. Jay, quite frankly, I drafted Brock Purdy this year, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall. I was very high on all three. And when all three were playing and healthy, the Niners looked unbeatable, and all three of those guys looked like complete studs. Unfortunately, they all missed like 2/3 of the year. So again, you can extrapolate out what kind of fantasy success or lack thereof that I experienced this season. So I am rooting, though, for your Niners. Like, they are my team that I want to win. And I think, honestly, they could go on a run here if this week's game was in San Fran. It's not. I got to take the Eagles. It's not. I'm not picking with my heart. I'm picking with my head. And unfortunately, I think the Eagles are going to get that win. I hope I'm eating crow too, Jake, for your benefit, for mine, and for our 49ers. Because like I said, I used to be a big Steelers fan. We're going to talk about them in a minute. I'm a big Detroit Lions fan now, but I do also really like and respect the Niners, and they're kind of like one of the teams I like to root for and hope that they do well. So let's hope that Gary and I are wrong, Jake, and that you're right. Moving on though to the second to last, the penultimate game of the slate this week, the second to last game, which is going to air on NBC and Peacock at 8 p.m. on Sunday night. The New England Patriots, off of an incredible season by them. I referenced the coaching change they made in the offseason. They brought in who I thought they should have got all along, by the way, Gary. When they fired Bill Belichick, I said, Mike Vrabel, no freaking brainer. A Patriot guy, the Patriot way, a former coach of the year, I believe, with the Titans. I couldn't believe he was on the market. I thought he was a perfect fit for that team. They hired Gerard Mayo for whatever reason, whoever the hell that was. He lasted 1 year, I think won 3 or 4 games, fired his ass, brought Vrabel back in, 14-win season. He's in the mix for coach of the year. They're hosting a game now against a pretty scrappy and game Chargers team, which seem to always be banged up and have like the worst line in the entire NFL. You and I both seemingly are very high on Justin Herbert. He gets left for dead and hung out to dry like no other quarterback other maybe than Burrow. So this is a tough game to call. I think very highly of Vrabel and May, but I think that New England team, like, I don't know, they've done it a lot this season on smoke and mirrors, in my estimation. And the Chargers, They have a pretty good defense. They've got Herbert, who's been here before. They lost a really bad game against Jacksonville that they were up like 3 touchdowns in last time Herbert was in the playoffs. You know that's in the back of his mind. They've got Harbaugh, who's coached teams to the Super Bowl before. I don't know. This might be the first kind of favorite that I'm not really feeling because, like I said, the Patriots are -3.5, which seems a little lofty in this game. Gary, what say you?
This is the other hardest game to call. Like I said, I'm not impressed with any of these division winners. I'm taking the Chargers. I may be wrong. I may be eating. It's nothing against the Patriots. Obviously, just like the Bears, the Patriots have made great strides. Obviously, they're way better. Props to them for that. And I like the Patriots. But I can't trust a quarterback that young in the playoffs, and Justin Herbert is due. If he loses this game, there's going to be a lot of talk, a lot of chatter going on about if this guy's the real deal or not. He has to prove himself, and this is the time to do it. And I think he will. And I think Harbaugh is what pushes me over the edge to choose the Chargers, even though, to your point, I do think Vrabel is also an experienced and great coach. But Harbaugh is just so good, and I think that that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think I was just nodding along because I agree with a lot of your points. I spoke about Stafford and his preposterous numbers earlier. Drake May had a great year. 4,394 yards, 31 touchdowns, and only 8 picks. So he only has the eight turnovers as well, or 8 interceptions as well. Like Stafford, they both only had 8 picks. Stafford had like 47 touchdowns, though, significantly more. But it's been highly publicized. A lot of those touchdowns did come from the 1-yard line. Make of that what you will. But May has seemingly always found a way to answer his critics this year. They've always seemed to overperform at least my expectations because I've been waiting all season long for some kind of regression by them, for them to dip back down. Even when they beat the Bills the first time, lost the second time they met. Even when they beat the Bills, I still fully expected the Bills to win the division, but kudos to the Patriots, to May, to Vrabel. They found a way to win that division. 14 wins, no small feat by them, but they have played a very porous schedule this year, Gary. Their strength of schedule is putrid. They really haven't been tested all that much other than the Bills. I'm not necessarily sold on their defense. The Chargers are a flawed team in the sense that their pass protection stinks. But I think in a cold weather game, they're going to play tight to the vest, try to accentuate their defense. And like you said, an inexperienced young quarterback who hasn't been on this stage, I think they'll run the ball. I think they're going to run the ball well on that defense. And there's just something about Herbert, and I just think he's going to find a way. This would be a pretty sizable upset. But Gary, I'll let you back in. I think I'm going to go with you again. We have not even picked one game against each other to this point. And we're both taking a pretty big upset here.
I thought you had the Jags over the Bills. Did I sway you over to the Bills side?
No, I'm feeling the Bills. I'm feeling pretty confident on the Bills.
Okay.
But
I wanted to confirm your point here. I'm going over the Patriots schedule. Okay. So let's see. They beat the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Bills, to your point, is the biggest win. The Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, and around the time the Buccaneers started to fall off, the Jets, the Bengals, the Giants. Then they lost to the Bills. They beat the Ravens in a close game. Then they beat the Jets, and they beat the Dolphins to close the year. That's not impressive.
No, that's heinous. I mean, they literally have like one quality win. I mean, like you said, the Buccaneers were 5-1. They looked good, but then they lost. They lost like 6 or 7 games out of 8, and then they don't even make the playoffs. Like the Ravens, people hear the Ravens are like, oh, they're good. They missed the playoffs too. So like those are 2 teams that aren't even in the playoff field, and there's 14 teams in the playoff field. So it's like half the league makes the playoffs, and they've really only had one quality win all year. And the Chargers, I'm telling you, like they're going to take the air out of the ball. They're going to methodically try to run it. Put Herbert in short third down opportunities, keep him out of third and long, make it third and manageable, and Herbert is going to find a way to extend those drives, move the chains. I just have a feeling about the Chargers this week, and it's going to feel like a crushing loss to the Patriots, who had a great year, but it's not. They are so far ahead of where they should be. They're at least a year or two ahead of where they should be. Like, no matter what happens in this game, Patriots Nation should be celebrating the fact that they have a franchise coach and quarterback now for many, many years to come. But I just don't think it's this week is not their week. We are yet again aligned again, Gary. And that brings us to our final game of the slate, which is a game obviously that is near and dear to my heart, my Pittsburgh Steelers, because again, I am a Pittsburgh native through and through, even though I've now lived in Florida for like 8 years. I still think of Pittsburgh as my home. My parents still live in Pittsburgh, the same house they've lived in my whole life. Probably they've been there for like 48 years. My dad was a huge, of course, Bob made an appearance on the stream here earlier. My dad was a huge Steelers fan in the 70s, back when the Steelers were actually good and a viable, great team. He actually, Gary, went to one of the Super Bowls, I believe. I don't want to go ahead. If you're still watching, Dad, shoot me a text confirmation. I believe he was at the Vikings one, which was a very, very hard-fought defensive game. Really, the Steelers, I don't even think they gave up 100 yards of total offense in that game to the Purple People Eaters Vikings team. I think they won 16-6 in that game. Franco Harris, I believe, was the Super Bowl MVP in that one. And the Steelers won that Super Bowl in, I think, New Orleans. And I believe that was the one that my dad was at. But he's giving me a thumbs up. So that was the one that he was at. But yeah, growing up, like in his basement, in the basement area, like he had like his ticket was like framed and, like had some other posters and stuff in there. So anyway, I was weaned on the legend of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love the Steelers for like half of my life. But to me, Mike Tomlin and this era of losing that he has ushered in, this disgraceful, pathetic era of mediocrity where losing and playoff games and just winning half of your regular season games and slithering into the playoffs, like that's enough. That's obviously successful enough for the Rooneys, the ownership at this point. And if they're implicit in losing, and if they're just going to support losing, why should I really be a fan of this team? It has been, Gary, unbelievably, for the delicate genius Mike Tomlin, the legend Mike Tomlin, who's going to just walk right off of an NFL field and into the Hall of Fame whenever he decides to retire. 10 years since they've won a single playoff game. A decade. I've been married for like 3 years now. I've known my wife. I've been with her for like 8.5 years. I didn't even know her the last time my Steelers won a playoff game. This guy's an absolute loser. He has ushered in an era of losing and mediocrity. And here we are yet again. He slips into the playoffs because Lamar Jackson missed like 5 or 6 games this year, or else they would have run away with the division. He slips into the playoffs because Joe Burrow missed like 10 or 11 games, or else they might have run away with the division. Both of those teams damn sure would have had a better record at the end of the year than the Pittsburgh Steelers did. But the Steelers are the benefactor of a poopy division. I've been talking about it. It's been a theme of this whole live stream, and it drives me insane. They slide into the playoffs undeservingly because their division is poo, and they get rewarded with a home playoff game against a much superior opponent, the 12-win Houston Texans, who, of course, come from the division that the Jaguars won with 13 wins, a record of 13-4. And not only that, they got to play the Monday night game, thanks for nothing, says Houston to the NFL, where, again, Mike Tomlin has never lost a home Monday night football game. So, Gary, we've got the Texans here and the Steelers, 8:15 Monday night, ESPN and ABC, and the Texans right now, 3-point road favorites right now. What say you about this game?
Easiest one to call. Apologies to Mr. Skapanek. Yeah, Texans are going to steamroll the Steelers.
Not much to say. You're that confident? Like you don't think the Steelers stand any shot in this game?
Especially I see ESPN. they're all saying the Steelers are going to win. Yeah, I'm really going for I really am picking the Texans now because they're so biased over there. So yeah, I've got Houston.
If the game was in Houston, I would suggest that the Texans were going to win by like 3 touchdowns. This is technically, I know the Browns had a good defense this year too, and they're going to have the defensive player of the year in Myles Garrett, but the Texans technically end the season with the number 1 rated defense in the NFL this season because they were number 1 against yards against. They're also like 1 or 2 in points against. This defense is absolutely nasty. And if it were in Houston in their dome on that turf with that speed, I would suggest that the Steelers were going to lose by 3 touchdowns. I think that they have a shot at home in the freezing temperatures Monday night in Pittsburgh. It will slow their defense down a bit, neutralize them. It's again a dome team coming and playing in the cold outdoors. And here's the big differentiator to me. I don't believe in Tomlin. But I do believe in Rodgers, even though he's not the same Rodgers, not even close. Like this guy is like half of what he used to be. But it could be his last game ever. So like, I just expect him to come out and be as elite as he could be at this stage of his career and of his life at now. I believe he's 42 years old. He turned 42 in December. So I have no faith whatsoever in Tomlin, but Rodgers, maybe he's got some Rodgers magic left, like a little inkling of it remaining in his body for this home game against, albeit a great defense. But CJ Stroud, to me, there's question marks surrounding this guy. Like, I am not sold on him at all. I am not confident in him at all. And is it completely outside of him to come in and throw 3 picks and just let the Steelers win this game? Absolutely not. Like, I could see that happening. And or Rodgers capitalizing on short fields. So while, I think this game is much harder to predict, I think, than you, I'm still picking the Texans because I still believe in D'Amico Ryans. I still believe in that defense. And I still believe that Stroud can prescribe to the notion that I think Sam Darnold, we'll talk about him in a minute, maybe, as we're prognosticating the remainder of the bracket, if you want to do that real quick. Just don't be a bum. That's what I call it. Just don't be a bum. Sam Darnold, don't be a bum. Stroud, don't be a bum. If he could just not be a bum, then they should win multiple games in the postseason, starting with this Monday night in Pittsburgh. So I will take the Texans, Gary. And shockingly, in this wild card slate of who knows what the hell can happen, 6 games up, 6 games down, we agree on all 6, and we did not talk.
We'll have some disagreements. Let's delve into to project what we think, and maybe even do a follow-up live stream in a week or two once the matches are established. Okay. It's kind of hard to pick when in the next round. But going through this, I'm sure we're going to have some disagreements here. Okay, so let's start. I'm sorry, like I said, and I'm going to set the chat on fire here, but I'm sorry. I don't buy the Seahawks or the Broncos. Neither one of I big props to both of them. Like I said earlier about the Bears and the Patriots, they have jumped leaps and bounds from last year. But I just don't trust them as the number 1 seed. I don't trust that they're actually going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it. I don't know where Seattle came from, but I don't know. I just saw them getting their butts kicked by the Rams, and then they had a miraculously comeback to win that game without Devontae Adams. So anyways, I say that to say, let's see if we can go over. Let me see if I can call these games out. I guess the Broncos, are you looking at the bracket?
I'm looking at the bracket, Gary, but this is an important distinction. I'm pretty sure, like in the NBA, as we know, the seeds are locked. Like the bracket is set. Right. I think in the NFL, it's like a breathing entity where like it reseeds each way as it goes. So like the lowest remaining seed will play the highest remaining seed each round. So it's difficult to like look at the bracket and like extrapolate. Like you just have to say like who you think might win, and then who they would match up with would be who they might match up with.
Well, I'm going to ultimately say this. I think that as of now, it looks like the Broncos would play the Texans if the Texans do beat the Steelers. And let me see if that's correct. But then again, if the Chargers, no, they would actually play if the Chargers or Bills won,
Right.
the Broncos would draw them. Well, let me just say, I think any of those three teams will beat Denver.
I'm not sure about the Chargers, but I agree full-heartedly. I think the Bills and maybe the Chargers too. I think the Bills, though, I would pick either one, really. Like the Bills, or if Houston wins. So basically, Denver's drawing the lowest seed. We actually like all the lower seeds to win this week. We both have Houston, the Chargers, and the Bills. Those are all the lower seeds. If all of those teams do win, the Chargers would then draw Denver. They certainly could beat Denver. If New England, though, if the seed line holds and the 2-seed Patriots win that game, I'm pretty sure the Bills are going to win this week. I know we both like the Bills. That would mean the Bills are going to Denver off of Denver's bye. I don't think there's any way Denver wins that game. In fact, I think the Jags game this week is harder for the Bills, I think, than the Broncos game would be next week.
Remember what they did to them last year. The Broncos are way better this year. But this is my philosophy. You know that a team is legit when they blow out mediocre teams and when they convincingly beat other quality teams. That's when you know a team is legit. The Broncos struggle to win every game. It doesn't matter. And I'm not knocking the Broncos. I'm just talking about them as Super Bowl contenders, in my opinion. I just don't think they're on that level. I don't think they're number one seed. What are you going to say?
I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at the brackets and the seed lines right now. I'm going to say this. It stinks that they're playing in the first game. I think, or the wild card slate, I think the winner of the Bills-Jags game will come out of the AFC.
Okay.
That's my projection. Whoever wins that game this week, I think, will go on and win and represent the conference in the Super Bowl.
Okay, okay, finally some disagreements. I have the Texans. To me, it's out of the Bills and Texans because we don't know the bracket seedings yet. I don't know if they'd play possibly in the second round or the AFC Championship. But I have, just to fast forward here to the Super Bowl, I think the Bills and Texans are the two teams that go the furthest. Like I said, the seeding's not sure where they're going to meet. And I'm going to pick the Bills to make the Super Bowl. But honestly, the Texans, the way they have looked the second half of the year, no one wants to play the Texans. If anyone's drawing the Texans right now, they're like, I think the Texans would beat the Broncos if they play them in the second round.
Yeah, to your point, they started, remember, the Texans started 0-3 this year. Mm-hmm. So they lost to the Rams, Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville to start the year to go 0-3. They then lost at Seattle a few weeks later. They won 2 straight and they lost at Seattle. So they were 2-4. And now since then they have lost 1 game after going 2-4. And it was they lost to the game they lost was Denver in a tight game, 18-15. But that was a long time ago. November 2nd, they've won 9 consecutive games now to end the year.
Yeah. So now
we did talk a little bit off air before we came on. They do, to me, of all of the units, I said this to you, offense and defense, they have the best unit. Like their defense is the best unit in the entire postseason. So honestly, it really does come down to Stroud. Like, can he not be a bum for 3 games? Because that's what it's going to take. Like they're going to have to win 3 games to get into the Super Bowl. Now, if you're right, if it's Bills are the 6th seed, Texans are the 5, so they're both low seeds, which means they likely will not play till the AFC Championship game. And I don't know what the head-to-head tiebreaker would be. I would assume that the Texans would host that game because they're the 5 seed and the Bills are the 6th. They're both 12-5. So I would imagine that the Texans won some head-to-head tiebreaker, like common opponents or a conference outcome, that the Texans would actually host. So that is a humongous feather in the hat of the Texans if that game, because look, if you're the Texans, again, I'll say it again, a dome team predicated on defensive speed, like playing in your dome versus going to freaking Buffalo in January, like that's a big, big difference. And Josh Allen knowing how to play in that in Buffalo in the cold and the snow and stuff. So like that would be, I don't know if it came down to that game, I might be with you on that. Really, it's just a matter of if the Texans can get there to that point. I think I would probably say I'd go with the Bills to win. I know I said the winner of Jacksonville and Buffalo, but I'm picking Buffalo to win that game this week. So I would probably say I like the Bills to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Okay, so you like the Bills in the Super Bowl. I'm going with them. And you said that if you had your pick of any one team to win this year, you'd take the Niners. I would like take the Bills.
I would like to see them win. Like if
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you had your pick to pick who would win, you would like to see the Niners. That's what I'm saying.
I think so.
I am saying I have been watching the NFL since 1984 when Dan Marino was a rookie. And I have seen these Bills fans. There's not a bigger fan base in the entire world that needs a championship like the Bills do. This is their chance. I want the Bills. That fan base. Before I leave this earth, please, God, allow me to witness the Buffalo Bills winning a championship.
And I won't push back on you there because they're a close second to me, I think, to San Francisco. Definitely a team I am rooting for out of the AFC. The last 2 years I've been strenuously rooting for. I wanted them in Detroit in the Super Bowl so badly the last few years. Right. And they were both so good. The Bills and the Lions were so good last year. And of course, it went from what would have been the best Super Bowl for me to see Detroit and Buffalo to the worst imaginable Super Bowl, Eagles and Chiefs. The only thing that would have been worse would have been Eagles and Ravens or something. That was probably the only thing that would have been worse for me personally. But yeah, I hated that Super Bowl last year. All right, Gary, what do you like? Who do you like in the NFC? The NFC is, I think, even harder to pick than the AFC.
Yeah, okay, you got the Seahawks 1, and according to our pick, if the Packers beat the Bears, then it's going to be Seattle and Green Bay in Seattle. And if that's the case, I've got Seattle, and I think that's pretty easy.
Same?
Okay. Now, if the Bears were to win, they would be the 2 seed. That would mean that the Seahawks would draw the Rams. And I've got the Rams. If they go back, BTA, it is time. Devontae Adams is in the lineup. No more playing around. We're going to play for 4 quarters. None of these crazy comebacks. Remember that crazy 2-point conversion that was ruled dead and the Seahawks guy just picked the ball up, not even knowing he was picking up the 2-point conversion because he's just going to hand the ball to the ref.
Yeah, looking at the bracket, Gary, that would be a nightmare. I think the Rams are definitely going to win this game this weekend. And the fact that basically, look, I do like Green Bay, but that's a tight call.
Right, it is.
If the Rams are the lowest seed remaining when the Seahawks come off a bye, that is just a devastating draw for Seattle. I think if things shaked out the right way for Seattle, I think I could really see them getting into the Super Bowl. For instance, if Seattle could sidestep the Rams and the Rams had to play the Eagles, I think the Rams would definitively beat the Eagles in LA, hands down, no doubt about it. And that game should be in LA because they have a better record. But the Eagles get to host that game. So if the Eagles play the Rams and beat the Rams, then the Eagles were the team that went to Seattle. If Seattle got to host Green Bay and then Philly, and that was their path, I could see the Seattle Seahawks going to the Super Bowl. But if it happens that the Rams go to Seattle first, and the Rams are the ones that the Seahawks draw first and no one takes the Rams out for Seattle, that's a devastating matchup. I think the Rams would beat Seattle.
I don't trust Sam Darnold in the playoffs. I like him. I'm glad he's not a bust like he was looking like a bust for a while. I love the way he came back. I don't trust him in the playoffs. So look at what are 14-3 last year, the Vikings, and then he just what did he do in the first round? Nothing. He got annihilated. I think it's going to be something similar. I don't trust him. I like him, and if he proves me wrong, then great. But if the Eagles play. If the Eagles were to play the Seahawks, I got the Eagles. If the Rams go to Philly, I got the Rams. But if Philly beats the Rams, I've got Philly to beat Seattle.
Gary, I don't like the way these seed lines are shaking out. I don't like what I'm seeing here in the NFC. I don't like what I'm about to say. I really can see the Rams getting Seattle in the second game, beating them,
and then losing to Philly,
and then losing to Philly in like the NFC Championship game.
It is possible. Philly, of all these teams, Philly has the best roster.
Agreed.
Top to bottom. Philly's the team that I like the least. I think. Let me look over here. I'm trying to think. I don't like the Bears much. Mostly because I don't like Caleb Williams much. I don't like the way he acts. I think he's got potential to be good. I'm looking at all the other teams. The Eagle, I can't stand the Eagles. I'm not a big fan of the Bears. But other than that, I don't think I have anything really against any of the other teams. So I'm not crazy about the Broncos either. I don't know what it is. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I think the way they just kind of like the way they treated Russell Wilson just kind of like left a bad taste in my mouth. Because yeah, he wasn't as good like he was in Seattle, but he wasn't as bad as they made him out to be. They wouldn't be in this position with him right now, no doubt. I'm not saying he's good. I just thought they were a bit harsh with him. So anyways, props to them for doing better. But I can't stand the Eagles and I don't like the Bears. But other than that, I mean, I'm cool with any of these other teams. Would love to see the Bills, like I said, finally get that coveted championship for the fan base. I'm not a huge Bills fan. I just want to see that fan base. Of course, I'm in Florida. If Jacksonville went on a run, I'd be excited about that. I like Jacksonville. I just don't trust them.
Yeah. If I could have my dream Super Bowl looking at this whole bracket right now, it would be Bills, Niners, the 2 6 seeds. But yeah, my official pick, unfortunately, Gary, I think I'm going to go with Bills, Eagles in the Super Bowl.
I took Bills, Rams.
I can see that.
I
can see it, Gary. Like I said,
unfortunately,
if the Rams got the one, Gary, I think they would have won.
Yeah.
I think they would have done it. But the fact that they let the one slip away, like I just don't think it's just. I think they're better than Philly, technically. I think, look, they played Philly tighter than anybody in the playoffs last year, if you remember.
Right.
And then they were destroying Philly this year earlier, destroying them. They were up like 3 times. It was like 27-6. And then the Eagles came all the way back. They blocked 2 kicks in the last 6 minutes to win the game, including returning the last block kick for a touchdown. So the Rams are better than Philly, but in January in Philly, I just don't see the Rams. They're more of a finesse. They do have a good defense, don't get me wrong, but offensively they're more of a finesse offense. I just don't see them going into Philly and winning that game.
I have one good point to consider though. Don't the teams that come off close losses always have an advantage as they go and study film with good coaching? And McVay's a good coach. That's why, because they barely lost last year, and the Rams are much better this year than last year.
Yeah.
I thought they overachieved last year. I thought this year, though, they're like legitimately impressive. So I say the Rams are much better this year. And we saw what they did the first half. If the Rams had annihilated the Eagles like they should have that game, then I would actually be like, okay, Philly's going to figure out something. I don't know. Of course, you could beat a team twice in the same year. I just think the Rams are due to beat Philly, and Philly's just so inconsistent.
They are.
If both of the Rams' star wide receivers are both healthy. Now, if they lose one of those guys, I think they get edged out by Philly or maybe even by Seattle. But if both of those guys are playing, because look what the Rams did to Seattle in Seattle without Devontae Adams. Yeah. Now imagine Devontae's in the lineup. Now you've only got what's the other guy's name? The Hawaiian guy?
Puka Nacua.
What, Nacua? So Seattle only had Nacua to worry about. Now you got Devontae on the other side to worry about. I'm sorry. That's probably the best wide receiver duo in the entire league.
I mean, it likely is. And they also have Kyron Williams, who's an ace running back as well. And Colby Parkinson, their tight end, has come on as of late too. But Gary, now the Eagles, their receiving core is no slouch either. They've been, like you said, highly inconsistent. But Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, like two elite stud wide receivers.
Yes.
And then Saquon Barkley, enough said there, out of the backfield. And, I mean, Hurts, look, he's just such an enigma. Like, Hurts can play like the best quarterback in the NFL or the worst. Like, you'd never know what Hurts you're going to get from week to week. And this year really accentuate that. So, I don't know. It's not a confident pick, and I hope I'm wrong for sure. And I could see the Rams or – again, I worry about them going on the road now through the whole postseason. I think if they got that, and look, LA is not, it's not like a home advantage necessarily for the Rams. That fan base is lousy. Like they're like probably half the stadium would be the opposing team's fan anyway. It's just that the Rams wouldn't be taking on the disadvantage of playing on the road. Like it would be like a neutral field game in LA. And I think the Rams would outplay any team in the league on a neutral field. But when they have to go outside to these brutally, frigidly cold places in January, like it worries me. Maybe I'm putting too much stock into that.
Where did Nacua play college ball?
I think, did he?
I'm asking because Devontae Adams is used to the cold.
I'm more concerned with Stafford, honestly, and an older quarterback with health concerns. I mean, he played in Detroit, but Detroit's a dome. So he's an older quarterback. Like if he takes a hard hit, lands on the cold, frozen ground on his back, like who knows?
Yeah, and he got that Jalen Walker guy who's like one of the best in the league. That was a steal. I remember. Do you remember Marcus Spears, the Cowboys fan, when the Eagles drafted Jalen Walker and he jumped out of his seat pacing because he was so agitated? I remember that too. I felt that. I was like, no, that was like the steal of the draft, and it went to the worst team for.
Tell me about it. So, Gary, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, that's the great thing about sports. That's why I like talking sports, because we will see. Like everything we've talked about, like we're going to see how it plays out on the field. Specifically this week, we'll see, the 6 games on the wild card slate. The last one again will end not till Monday, so we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. And then we've got the 2 1 seeds that we talked about coming off their buys in Denver and in Seattle. Neither of us are very high on Denver, particularly. They're another one of these teams that seems to have just slipped by every game. Like they're like kind of Bears like. They just win these close games, it seems like, every single week. I think that kind of stuff eventually catches up with you. So, we'll have to see what they look like coming off their buys. But Gary, it was obviously quite fun getting on a live stream and catching up here with you and obviously some of you guys.
Well, to clarify and summarize before we sign off here.
Yep.
I believe the Rams beat the Bills in the Super Bowl. And you have?
I think I'm going to go with the Bills over the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
You think you're taking the Bills to win it all?
I think I'm going to have
sure hope I'll be so happy for
I think I'm going to have the Bills beating the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Though, again, if things go, it wouldn't surprise. 3 weeks ago, I said earlier in the live stream, I would have told you I was utterly confident that Matt Stafford was winning the league MVP and winning the Super Bowl this year. And it just, the last 3 games, it really just unraveled, I feel like, for them. Maybe they can get it back now in the playoffs. They have an absolute stud of a quarterback, or a stud of a coach in Sean McVay. So who knows? The Rams, it wouldn't surprise me. It is tight. And if the Rams get into the Super Bowl, I agree with you. I think they do win it. That's not a bad pick at all. Rams over Bills. It's a great pick. I could see that happening 100%. I would hope for that over my pick. Well, at least I wouldn't mind seeing the Bills win, but the Eagles getting in there, it would just stink for me personally, and for probably most of the United States of America.
And to the chat,
stand that insufferable fan base. What was that, Gary?
To the chat, real quick, name your team in the chat who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. And I want them to do that while you continue talking. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no. So yeah, hopefully it's so weird because this year I don't think there's any clear-cut like dominant favorite team. I thought the Rams were like verging towards that when they lost that Seattle game. And then they lost. It was just a terrible other game they lost right after. I think it was Atlanta on Monday night or something. It was just a terrible loss.
Yeah, that was.
And then they came back and won their last game to get the 5 seed.
But the Falcons looked way better the last quarter of the season when they
did. With Kirk Cousins, yeah.
And like I said, the Rams didn't have Devontae Adams, and they very well came back and could have won.
So I do see Casey Stackers that, to answer your question, said Seattle. And I think, and what I was talking about actually was the fact that in lieu of any dominant team, which there's no like great dominant or favorited team, I don't think in my estimation this year, the seed lines and the way that they fall and the way the bracket shakes out, like that's going to play more, I think, of a role than we've seen in many years, because there are several different teams I can see, especially in the NFC. There's like 3 different teams I could see coming out depending on how the seed lines fall. Like I said, if the Seahawks can get the Packers, if the Packers do upset the Bears, that would be great news for the Seattle Seahawks, which is Casey Stacker's pick here in the chat. Because I think if the Seahawks get the Packers, I think the Seahawks will go on to the Super Bowl. And then if I could see the Rams just in general because of what a great team they are getting there. And then the Eagles just having that lucky home field advantage with an 11-6 record. Like there's a scenario where at 11-6, the Eagles might host every playoff game through to the Super Bowl. So like that, I mean, I could see them getting out too. So that really the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Eagles, I think all have a really good shot to get out of that NFC side into the Super Bowl if things fall their way, depending on who their matchups are along the way. So the Bills, though, I think they're just I think they could beat almost any team if Josh Allen is on.
Yeah. Yep, that's it. So you've got Bills and I've got Rams. I hope you're right. And maybe we'll revisit and do a follow-up in a week or two when the matchups are established.
Sounds good to me, Gary. And then perhaps we could chat off air here a bit and see if we can come up with some kind of a weekly live schedule that we could maybe commit to or stick to in some capacity and do like at least one live show a week together. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sounds good. Gary, thank you so much as always for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. Always you add an immense amount of value, I think, to these. So thank you very much. And thank you very much to everybody that came out. I know I don't talk much football. I will be talking some NBA, obviously more as I typically always do. So if you guys are longing for some NBA content, of course, I'll be back with that probably sometime tomorrow with a video. There's a big slate tonight. So I think there's like 11 or 12 games tonight. So I'll get into that obviously more probably tomorrow. In the meantime, guys, please do make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you aren't already. I would imagine that you are, and turn on notifications to stay up to date with more from me. That's the best way to do it because I do random things at random times, such as this live stream. So turn on the notifications and join me whenever I do pop on here. I see some picks for Bills and the Broncos. Well, okay, I don't. Neither of us see the Broncos, but Guys, many thanks for being here and for all of your continued input and interactions here, guys. And I didn't say it enough, maybe a happy belated holidays to all of you guys and to you as well, Gary.
Yes, sir. You as well.
All right. And we'll catch you next time, guys. Have a good one.